And we are live.
Stand up, New York Giant fans.
Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Boys in the Big Apple podcast. I have two tremendous guests here today. Entertainah Talking Sports, who does Knicks, Mets, and Giants on YouTube. I also have Copizzle, legend Giants content creator. Obviously, Luca's here, and we're going to talk about a bunch of topics. Obviously, the Prescott extension is among those. And while we're waiting for Sean to get in here, we could do that just right now. Obviously, in a little bit, I'll send the StreamYard link in the chat so that way you guys can get a chance to talk to us and your favorite Giant content creators as well. But I'm going to go around the I would say round table. I'll ask Tana first, then I'll go with Pennzoil, then I'll go with Luca, and then I'll end with mine. Entertainah, what do you think of this whole Dak extension thing? And I kind of know already, but you could just put your information out there.
Listen, it's in all seriousness, it's the nature of the NFL right now with the quarterback position. The quarterback position, in my opinion, even though it's the most important position on a football team, is the most overpaid position in all sports. It's almost impossible to win a Super Bowl when your quarterback takes up 20% of the team's cap, and that's what's now going to happen in Dallas. Listen, he's a borderline top 10 quarterback. He's a solid quarterback, good quarterback. I'm not going to say great. He came in as a third-round pick, had a great supporting cast. You put any good quarterback with that team, they're going to the playoffs. They had a great team. They had a great offensive line. Ezekiel Elliott was probably the best running back in football that year. A great defense, great weapons on the outside. And as that team has started to slowly deteriorate, you've seen their record diminish with Dak Prescott. And the thing, if I was a Dallas fan, it's one of those things where you almost have to accept because it's so hard to find a quarterback that you're probably going to extend them. But where Dallas screwed up so bad, they should have done it 2 years ago. They should have done it 2 years ago when you got guys like Kirk Cousins signing for $27 million a year. Now you're paying Dak $40 million a year over the next 4 years in a year in which he just had an injury. He's coming off an injury. He only played 4 or 5 games, and now you decide to give him the extension? I would have tagged him again. Now that you've gone this far, you take it all the way. You don't give him the extension now that he's coming off the injury and you have a smaller cap. It's the worst possible year to do it. I'm ecstatic as a New York Giant fan because I think they're going to be in the land of mediocrity now with this extension.
I definitely agree with that. And with the defense, they're going to have to spend a lot of draft picks on the defense. I don't know how many they have, but that defense is going to need to get better. And I think they hired Dan Quinn as DC. So that's obviously, that has to fix their defense. And if not, well, they're in straight up hell, whether it be talent or coaching. Pennzoil, what do you think about it? And I know, obviously, us three Giant fans being Cowboy haters is a part of this NFC East division.
Yeah, I respect Dak Prescott as a player. I don't think he's a bad player by any means. But what I will say is it's harder for a team to win a Super Bowl after they've paid their quarterback. Especially when they've paid their quarterback a lot of money. And honestly, I'm not so sure Dak is necessarily worth what they gave him. But it's as like Entertainah says, the QB position in football is grossly overpaid, a lot of them are. And so for me, as a Giants fan, I think this is a great thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think it's great. He doesn't really scare me per se. I think he's a good player, no doubt about it. I think that's one of the best draft picks the Cowboys have had in probably the last 10 years. If you just ranking up draft picks and where they got them. But I mean, from as a Giants fan, it's funny because Dak's got a little bit of that Romo to him where, Romo had supporters, but also Romo had haters. And so Dak has got the same deal where he's got, guys that like him, and he's also got haters. So it's going to be still for the next, 4 years? You're going to have to Cowboy fans are going to be bickered about if they love Dak or not. And I think it's great. I think it's going to hurt their ability to build on their roster. And they're just, to me, going to be an average football team for the next couple of years.
Didn't they tag him as well?
They tagged him last year.
Yeah, last year they did.
Last year they tagged him, and obviously
they've spent a lot of money on Dak. They really have. They've spent a lot of money on Dak.
And I'm going to tell you what, Pennzoil, I think the Giants need to learn from this. And if Jones is the guy, which I think we both agree, or maybe you don't agree with me on this. I don't know yet. I don't know if he's the guy or if he's not. I think he could be the guy, but mature and grow. But if the Giants decide Jones is the guy, don't dick around. Do the extension. Don't dick around like the Dallas did with Dak, because if you keep backing it up, you're only delaying the inevitable, and then you're going to end up paying him a lot more money.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. I also think, too, Jerry, over the last 15, 20 years, has shown that he kind of falls in love with his quarterbacks. So to me, it's no surprise that they re-signed Dak. I didn't think there was any doubt that they would. He loved Romo. He's loved. I think he's enjoyed having Dak. He likes his quarterbacks, and I think he gets a soft spot for him. So, as far as the Giants go, if we'll see, right? I mean, this next year is a big year for Daniel. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see if he's worthy of a huge extension or not.
So I'll pass it on to my brother. But first, I do want to add somebody who is part of the show. And they, I guess at this point in the game, they do have a bad cap situation of their own. He's a Steelers fan. This is Sean Cacaro. Mets. Yankees. A little late.
I was having some technical difficulties, so that's all taken care of. First off, I have a question. Pennzoil, you're a NASCAR fan, right?
Yeah, Sean, I am. Yes, I am. I'm a NASCAR.
Who's your driver? Who's your driver?
Honestly, I don't have a driver. I just enjoy watching the races.
For me, I was always a big Jeff Gordon fan. So when he retired, I went on to Chase Elliott. But
Chase is cool.
I live about 10 minutes from Pocono Raceway, so I go to the races all the time.
Oh, good deal, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. How's everybody doing?
Doing good, Sean.
Doing good. Luca, what do you think of the Dak extension? And then I'll pass it on to Sean as well.
I do think it's an overpay. I mean, he does deserve his money, but I don't think it's that much. I think they extended. How long ago did they extend Zeke? Does anybody know?
That was 2019, because I remember it was just a couple of days before the Giants game.
With a bevy of big contracts, I think that's going to limit their ability to build around their quarterback and their talent. But it's kind of like the Deshaun Watson argument that Jets fans have been having. Will they be able to build around him with his cap hit and the amount of picks you're going to have to give up? But I don't know. I can honestly see the Cowboys being mediocre for the next couple of years.
Something to add before Sean puts his opinion out there. Evan Spitzberg says, "Wow, Big Blue in the Bronx. I have a brother who is also a Jets fan."
Poor soul. You poor soul.
Yeah, poor soul is damn right. And I'm going to explain how I'm a Giants fan, just very quickly before we obviously get into the next couple of things. My whole family is full of Jets fans. My uncle's a Jets fan. My grandfather's a Jets fan. All full of Jets fans. I don't know how I ended up being a Giants fan, but I obviously made the better decision out of, all the family.
Well, you probably have the highest IQ.
Yeah.
That is true as well.
I like that.
So that's Evan Spitzberg's comments. Let's see what else. Eagles are bad. We beat Washington every year, and the Cowboys aren't going to be great. Obviously, on the defensive side of the ball, they need to work. Coaching, talent, that stuff. They have a lot of contracts that, just recently with the, let's say they signed Jalen Smith to an extension. They signed one of the offensive linemen, or two of their offensive linemen to an extension. So, they're backed up when it comes to that. And they, in the future, they will have, and I don't understand how they had this money to pay Dak in the first place, to be honest with you. I'm like, aren't they cap hell? But obviously, the Eagles are pretty bad. They're in a bad situation in terms of cap. And, something I did see on Giants Twitter, when Nick Sirianni had his opening press conference and the media was making fun of him, they're like, oh, he's stumbling a lot, this, that, and the other thing. Giants fans were feeling bad for Sirianni. I'm like, since when did Eagles fans care about what Giants fans thought?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, Eagles fans up here are ruthless. You don't want to mess with an Eagles fan.
I mean, that was just,
I would not.
On Twitter, I was like,
I like to respond to somebody.
Most of the Eagles fans up here are just flat out brain dead. Honestly, you can't escape it. They're everywhere up here. Alex, you would know just better than I would because you lived up here as a Giants fan.
Yeah, and now I'm in New York with now it's just Jet fans and also Cowboys fans as well. But obviously, let's see. I'm just trying to recap any of the comments.
Here's a question for everybody: who do you hate more, Eagles fans or Cowboys fans? I stick with Eagles fans just because of where I live.
I'm actually gonna say Cowboys fans, and I hate both of them. Okay, let's start with that. But as much as I pick on Eagles fans, and as much as I definitely think that they are, what's the word I'm trying to get at? Irrational in terms of that they think they're going to be able to get every player under the sun. I think they're legitimate fans. I think they're diehard fans. I think they love their team, and they're passionate and they're loyal. When I think of Cowboys fans, I think of the complete opposite. I think of a bandwagon team in terms of a fan base. Maybe it's because I grew up in the 90s when they were great, and I had all these people I went to school with that were Cowboys fans. That's what I think about. I think about bandwagon fans. I think about fans that go quiet until their team starts to get good. I think Eagles fans are stick through it through thick and thin. So I actually respect Eagles fans more than Cowboys fans.
Pennzoil?
For me, it's always been Cowboy fans. But after week 17 of last year, that's
a good point.
I just was, I hope Eagle fans would get shit on by their own birds every single day, as far as I'm concerned. And I can't wait for next season. I pray to the football gods and the scheduling committee and all the people that they give the Giants, the Eagles, week 1. That would be fantastic. I hope it's on national television. That's what I hope for and pray for every single night before I lay my head down. And so for me, right now, I just can't stand Eagle fans. But just wait till the season starts, and I'll go right back to Cowboy fans.
Yeah,
it made it worse.
I'd love to go to that.
500 that night.
Again, I've always given credit to Eagle fans ever since I've been on YouTube that, hey, the one thing you guys are is passionate and you're prideful, and like even when you're not doing well, you want to win. I've never seen Eagle fans have a tanking mentality as a fan base, as an organization. I've seen Cowboy fans kind of have it. It's like Entertainah says, you could definitely identify the Cowboy fans as being somewhat bandwagon, fans. So, a lot of them are the same cats that, they wear Lakers jerseys, or they wear Bulls jerseys, or they root for the Tar Heels. They do root for the Yankees. It's like a starter pack for booger eating bandwagon fans. So but for me, to see the Eagle fans just crumble that week and just lay down like dogs, boy, I just can't stand them right now.
I got lucky with the area I work. The people that I work with, for the most part, were against what the Eagles did. So I won't say they're all bad, but the problem that I've always had with Eagles fans, and again, this comes from a Steelers fan, but it's just, how ruthless they are in Philly against other fans. A couple of years ago, Alex knows, I went to the first game after they won the Super Bowl in the preseason, and they just, I don't know what it is that with them that they just can't, respect the fact that people don't like Philly. Some people just will root for the other team. I never understood that. that's the only problem I ever had with Philadelphia fans. It's just the way they treat other fans. They act like they're the only fan. And don't get me wrong, I respect the fact that they're one of the more passionate fan bases. It's just, I don't know. I can never figure out what it is that they can't stand.
They used to have a jail cell in the old Eagles Stadium.
They're
known as degenerates. They eat horseshit after they win Super Bowls. We know Eagles fans' reputation. They're not the smartest bunch. But what I'll say is I will give them credit that they're loyal. But Pennzoil brought up a great point that maybe I should have thought about that, the way that this season ended. And a lot of Eagles fans, especially content creators, came out. So Pennzoil brought up a great point about how the season ended.
For me, the most important day is when the schedule comes out for me, just because I want to see Eagles week 1. That to me is the most important day of this year, because I want to see when we play the Eagles. That's all I care about right now.
Would you guys consider? Would you guys?
I think he broke up there. I think I know what he's trying to say.
What do you think his question was?
I think his question was, would you guys ever want to go to Philly?
Oh, I mean, I've already been. I'd go again in a heartbeat.
You want to go this year, Pizzo? I'll go.
I would go. Yeah, I'd go this year. I have honestly, like, I enjoyed my time going to the Lincoln Financial Field. I enjoy confrontation. Was that your question?
Sorry, I had a little Wi-Fi issue. Your question: would you?
Again,
okay.
This question is never going to happen.
I think that's his. Like, I'm a person that I enjoy good confrontation every now and then. So I have no problem going to the Lincoln and wearing Giants, panties, into that place. I have no problem at all. So for me, I enjoyed my experience. The night that I went was the first night that the Giants wore the Color Rush jerseys, aka their throwbacks. And so, for me, I was like, it was a Thursday night game. And for me, it was, I would have went to hell to watch the Giants play in those uniforms for the first time again. Yeah. And so it didn't really matter where it was. But, that night I really gained a whole new respect for Eagle fans, because when we played them that night, they were mathematically out of the playoffs. Carson Wentz was a rookie. Giants had a chance to clinch. And it was amazing how they completely packed the place. And there wasn't a seat available. There were a lot of Eagle fans. It wasn't like Giant fans overtook it. So I was like, man, I got a new respect for these people, because they still came to a game that was technically meaningless, right? They didn't have to win. Giants are, we're trying to secure a playoff spot. And so for me, I was like, man, I got a whole new respect for Eagle fans. Like, they care even when they're out of it. And now fast forward several years later, and apparently it's something to do with the Giants, because that night they played their ass off, didn't care about a draft pick. And then, this particular night they didn't care about losing to Washington. So, I've had some Eagle fans get on to me about, oh, you should have done nothing. You should have done this. You should have done that. And it's just like, well, you should embarrass themselves. So for me, I think they embarrass themselves. And so absolutely, if the Giants were at Philly week 1, there's no question I would be there. No question. Absolutely no question I would. I mean, because that's the biggest game of the Giants year.
That's the Super Bowl next year.
No, that's our Super Bowl. That is our Super Bowl is when we play the Eagles.
Yeah.
I have no problem admitting that.
Some things I do want to point out. Potato, I think that's how you say it. You can identify by a Cowboy fan by yelling, "This year we're going to the Super Bowl." That is very true. Let's see what else. I gotta get in through the comments. I know, what was I gonna say? Someone said something about Sean's Wi-Fi. Well, it's not. It's something I want to get into later, because something I found out about Entertainah, and I it's not that he's like bad or anything. It's just the company he worked for. I have many grievances again. We'll get to that.
I remember those days.
Optimum.
I used to work for Optimum, then I worked for Spectrum. Oh, you guys, so you got that's right. The Bronx does have Optimum.
Bro, I live in Brooklyn, actually.
Oh, you in Brooklyn? I think the Bronx. Yeah. Actually, I lived on Long Island when I worked for Optimum. I left Optimum because of how bad they became. Their company is a disgrace. Now they have all contractors who try to rush in and out of the house. It's not a good company. So that would explain the Wi-Fi.
So I'll explain it just briefly now. So when I moved back to New York in 2018, I was excited because Sean's Wi-Fi is what I had in Pennsylvania. It's Blue Ridge Communications. They're not the greatest, but they're, decent Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi usually depends on the weather. Like, if it's bad out, it's probably going to suck. That's just Pennsylvania for you.
And when you're in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't necessarily do the greatest of wonders.
Yeah.
At the same time, moved to New York. My grandparents had the old boxes for Optimum, and that was even before I think Altice bought them. So I'm like, yay, Optimum, better Wi-Fi, better this and that. We got the new boxes, the refurbished boxes. I'm like, oh, this sucks now. So I was waiting, literally counting down the days till Verizon Fios showed up in our area. I'm like, yay, finally, good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So that's basically my story with that. And didn't Cablevision own Optimum at one point?
Yeah, that's the original company. Then they became they were always Cablevision. They just rebranded to Optimum, and then Dolan bought the company, who obviously owns the Knicks as well. And
can you say you worked for James Dolan?
What?
Can you say you worked for James Dolan?
I worked for James Dolan. Yeah, technically. Yeah. He was
Yeah. Well, that's no surprise there. You want to tell them what they were chanting at our first Knick game 2 years ago?
Yeah, they were chanting "Sell the team." It was the one game where I don't know if this was caught at home, but it was when Fizdale was still the coach. It was against the Charlotte Hornets. I remember
November
it was like
16th.
November 16th or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a Saturday game. They took out RJ Barrett for Wayne Ellington, and that was like, I forget who made the game-winning shot, but it wasn't buzzer beating, but it was the game-winning shot.
It was Devontae Graham.
Yeah.
There you go. And then people were chanting "Sell the team" and all these other things. And the one thing I did want to get to as well is that, when Pennzoil was talking about being confrontational, he picks fights with his own and Giants Twitter. So that's how we know.
Yeah.
At least for some background stuff as well.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to back Pennzoil up on this. There's a lot of bad Giants fans. I'll be the first to say it. We're talking about Eagles fans. Our fan base is just as
I'll
embarrassing.
say the same thing about Yankee fans, too.
Giants Twitter is just awful. It's just
Yeah.
I mean, it's just about as bad as it gets. Only because the biggest issue that I think I have is it's okay to have an opinion about roster structure and things like that. But if you don't understand the basic principles of football in general, you can't it's like skipping K through 4 and just going straight to high school. It's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, you want to go to this class, but you don't even know how to read or write. So like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? So for me, like when I sit here and I read some of this stuff and I'm like, okay, well, that's your opinion about football. I can't really go with the rest of your opinions, and then the biggest issue is the treatment of Dave Gettleman. I feel like, John's GM is like,
Twitter GM.
I mean, it's so easy to sit back, behind your keyboard and just put together pieces without actually having to do a job. And so for me, it's just frustrating because I want to be supportive of Dave Gettleman because honestly, I can't say I've liked every move that he's made, but I can definitely say that I've liked the majority of his moves. And so for me, I'm just trying to back the general manager, as a fan as best I can. And to see people who don't eat their crow or don't make any logical sense about what the hell they're saying, like I just can't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
here's my issue with the Twitter GMs is if you're gonna bet, like, you can't go on Twitter for a day and not see somebody bring up the Saquon Barkley pick. And if you're gonna
bet on OBJ again,
yeah. And let me talk about the Barkley pick real quick. I understand where people are coming from, okay? And I love Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is my favorite player in the NFL. I love Saquon Barkley. But I understand the mindset of we should have started the rebuild in 2018 and a running back wasn't the right pick in that situation. I understand it. But these people that bitch and moan and bitch and cry every day, they wanted to take Josh Rosen. They wanted to take Sam Darnold. Those quarterbacks are backups in the NFL right now. If we would have taken the guys you wanted to take, it would have been a worse decision. And then they'll bitch and they'll moan and they'll say we wanted to take Quentin Nelson. Nobody wanted to take Quentin Nelson at 2. And then the people tell me that running backs aren't supposed to go in the top 5. You know how many guards have gone in the top 5 since 1936? 11. There's been 28 running backs since 1980. So positional value makes no sense. People love to be Monday morning GMs, and it pisses me off.
Yeah. Your boy Mike Too Nice might be the biggest geek of them all. But, the thing about it, the thing that sucks is Dave Gettleman, and I'm not making excuses for him, he's been in countless no-win situations. Because if you don't, for example, when he had the number 2 pick, if he doesn't draft Saquon Barkley, he's criticized. If Saquon goes somewhere and does something great. If he picks Saquon, he's criticized. No-win situation. Fast forward to right now, this Leonard Williams situation is complete no-win for Dave Gettleman. He has no chance to win this arc. He has no chance because if you pay him a fat contract, you got the Mike Too Nices of the world just, all over their face with how it's a terrible contract or if they let him walk and he goes out and is a superstar, right? Oh, Dave Gettleman's an idiot for letting him walk. So he's literally in a no-win situation because he has to overpay him. He has to. He also has to pay him because he traded for him. But at the same time, if he does let him walk, right, he's going to be criticized. So Dave Gettleman has been in multiple no-win situations. They wanted to get rid of Eli. They wanted to get a new quarterback. He went out and got a new quarterback. He clearly was right about the discussion between Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins. 100% right. Has not been given credit about it yet. Will not receive credit about it. But even if you don't think Daniel Jones is any good, he's clearly better than Haskins. Clearly better. But nobody will even throw on that. And so he's clearly better than Josh Rosen, as you brought up, who was in a different draft. He may be better than Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
But the fact is Dave Gettleman got the best guy that he possibly could where he was drafting from. And so, he's in a literally no-win situation. And honestly, I cannot – I go on Twitter with great intentions every single day. Like, okay, I'm logging on, and I'm scrolling through trying to – Twitter for me is kind of like picking up the newspaper. It's like I'm going to see like what's going on like in the world, who's died today, what's coming out. You're just kind of reading the paper, and then you just stumble upon John's Twitter, and then you just need to vomit all over yourself. And it's just like it's just tough, because most of the points are terrible, but there are some good. Don't get me wrong, but most of them are just terrible. So thanks for bringing that up there.
Short-sighted fans that want immediate gratification. That's what Giants Twitter is.
Yeah, and like, yeah. That's all I can say. I mean, it's just nuts to me, like how honestly, I thought about starting to collect receipts, but I would collect so many receipts that it would just overfill like what the hell I've got going on. And as far as collecting tweets of just stupidity and then asking individuals to cash them in, when clearly they were wrong. But I just ain't got time to collect them. I just don't have time.
I do want to remark upon something like that guy on Twitter who wants to be GM. Well, Evan, I don't mean to be rude, but you're going to have to specify because there are a lot of guys on Twitter that, want to be the GM of the Giants, but will never do that. Sox Arizona says Giants Twitter is full of booger eaters. They should wait until they're at least 12. Okay.
Not to interrupt, but when you look at Dave Gettleman's career, like even going back to the 80s, like everywhere he's been successful. I mean, he's been part of an organization that did so. Even when he was with the Broncos, they won a Super Bowl in 1997. When he was with the Bills, they were going on their Super Bowl runs. Like when he was with the Giants early with during Eli's stint as going to the Super Bowls, like he was a part of that. Like, and even when he was the general manager for the Carolina Panthers, they went to the Super Bowl. He's went in multiple places where he's had success, and ultimately, I feel like I was actually looking at the roster the other day, the year before Dave Gettleman showed up, and now the roster now, and I looked at him and I said, man, I think Dave has done a pretty good job trying to correct this roster. I think he's done a pretty good job. And so obviously there's still some players that were part of that team. Like I think Dalvin Tomlinson was here before Dave Gettleman. I believe Evan Ingram was here.
Pro Bowler.
Say what?
Pro Bowler.
Pro Bowler. Yeah, the Pro Bowler, Evan Ingram. And so, for me, like the offensive line is so much better than it was before Dave Gettleman got here. And that's a hot topic right now. I feel like the defense was a top 10 defense last year in the league. I firmly believe that. Whether it actually was or not, I feel like the defense was really good. And honestly, if the Giants would have been given a regular offseason instead of all the COVID stuff, I think the Giants would have done better last year. And so there was a lot of things that was kind of against them, and they made the best of what they could. And I honestly think they're at least an 8-win team next year, if not a 9-win team.
I agree.
I agree with that. Evan Spitsberg says, I don't know if you guys know this, but Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge are having press conferences tomorrow. Yeah. I didn't know that personally, but you know what? I'll definitely do some research on that. I know a lot of people are going to be, what-ifing this Levine Toilolo restructure. I don't know the numbers.
Yeah, to me, it depends on the numbers. I'm surprised. I thought they'd cut him. I think they could use the money, and I think you could find a tight end that could do what he does in the 6th round. But we'll see the numbers. I don't want to overreact. When I first saw it, I was like, "What the hell are they doing?" But I don't want to overreact until I see the numbers. If he gets paid $1 million, that's a back end of the roster guy anyway. So I'll wait, to judge that till I see the numbers.
I will say, and not to take over your show, but I will say that I think with them making that move today, it kind of takes us out of the Kyle Pitts draft.
I thought the same thing, Pizzle.
I feel like that, and again, that's why I haven't married myself to Kyle Pitts. I really like Kyle Pitts. I think he's going to be a great player. But for me, I don't see them bringing him on if they've already got 3 tight ends that they clearly probably like. Because, that doesn't mean I like Evan Ingram, but it's obvious that Evan Ingram's not going anywhere, And so unless they trade him or something, which I pray every night that they do, it's clearly an indication to me that I don't think Kyle Pitts is going to happen for the Giants.
May not. I mean, they've done some surprising things before.
Yeah,
Evan,
absolutely. I still think it's a possibility. I'm not holding my breath right now for it.
Evan says we should have won more games last season. Definitely true, but you're going to have those games every year where you're going to be like, oh, we should have won that game. You'll have your what-if games, or if the Giants lost the lead, if they were competitive, like the Rams game, the Bears game. You'll have those games. Doesn't mean it's right. But obviously the Eagles game, the first Cowboys game, those, your what-if games, and they got better as the season went on, kind of like Miami Dolphins in 2019.
They also kind of got – I don't want to say they got screwed, but if they would have played the Bears later in the year, they would have beat them.
Yeah, they started off with 5-1, and then
and honestly, when I look at their schedule and I go over the totality of what they did, they played a lot of playoff teams, right? And they even played the Super Bowl champs. And so, for me, that's not me making excuses, but to go from basically a top 4 draft pick to all of a sudden playing a shit ton of playoff teams, and to hold your own and really only get dominated in a couple of them, I think the Giants really made a lot of progress. I know the Mike Too Nice of the world don't see that, but I do. I see the progress.
I think I could honestly say, Pizzle, there's only 2 games last year where I said I was pissed that they didn't put forth the effort that I thought they should have, and that they were out. Like the Cardinals game, they were severely outcoached. They were severely out game plan. They were severely outcoached.
Daniel was hurt too.
Lack of effort. I was disappointed in that game, and I was disappointed in the 49ers game where we got completely blown out. The 49ers were banged up going in. Outside of those 2 games, though, you look like you were saying, we lose by 2 to the Bucs. We were in it with the Bears. We were in it with the Steelers in a game where we shouldn't have been at all. First game of the season with every, we so, and then we played tough teams down the stretch. But it was Arizona for me, and it was the 49ers. Outside of that, I think you got to be happy as a Giants fan. And like you said, I think the schedule will ease up a bit this year. And the other thing that I think Giants fans need to take into account, well, like you said, the negative Giant fans, they're going to have more familiarity this year on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely.
That in itself, like if we bring back the same team, which we're going to make some improvements on the offensive end. But that in itself, with the softer schedule, they should be a much better football team.
Well, I mean, and not to beat up a Pro Bowler, but if he catches the ball in Philly, we make the playoffs. We would have made the playoffs. Which again, I understand that some people's idea is it's either Super Bowl or it's nothing. I get that, but to go from a top 4 pick to a playoff team is a pretty big jump, I think, and so. Again, we came fingertips away from making the playoffs, and for me, I've always been a believer that I don't really care about what the record is. Just get into the playoffs, just get into the tournament kind of deal. That's always been my mindset. I've never cared. I've never been a record guy. Never really cared about that. Just enough to get in the playoffs, and so for me, that was fine. What they showed last year. Obviously, I would have liked a better record. If possible, but I saw improvement, and I think the Giants have a lot going for them coming up in this upcoming season. Still a lot of questions that need to be answered, but hopefully Dave makes the right moves. I have faith in him. I honestly do. It's crazy. I can't. I hate going back to John's Twitter, but it's crazy how bad they think he stinks. I don't. I'm pretty objective.
It's because, and by the way, another thing I want to throw in last year, it was without Saquon Barkley, who's supposed to be our best player.
Yeah.
But
which is easy to say that's a bad pick when he's hurt.
Of course.
It's easy to say it then. It's like, hey, I mean, shit. I mean, like, if he would have ran for 2,000 yards last year, would they have given Dave any credit? No, they wouldn't have given him anything. They would have just said, "Oh, well, Saquon's just a special athlete," and Dave was, Dave didn't do anything. He just, my grandma could have made that pick, but because he got hurt, it's Dave's an idiot for making that pick. Which, by the way, he got hurt. He got hurt at MetLife, which was, everyone was saying how bad the field was apparently early in the year. I don't think the 49ers wanted to even play that second game. Then they played the Jets the first game, and then the Giants. And the very following week, and they had an issue about the turf, and I don't know if that had anything. I know Darius Slayton played most of the year, where his lower body was hurting him, and Saquon got hurt. I don't know if any of that had to do with kind of together, but the fact is, if they had Saquon, I feel like that could have picked up at least another win too.
Yep.
I liked what Gallman did, but. Yeah, it's crazy to me how nobody can give Dave an excuse at all. They can't give him nothing. And the truth about it is like, if they would fire Dave, that means it's like the next man, whoever that man is, his head now becomes the chopping block. It's like literally a line.
What we got to realize are never going to be happy.
Yeah, no, of course not.
That's the thing, and it goes all. This goes all the way back to Tom Coughlin. Because we got to a point where, as a franchise and organization, where we said, okay, Tom's done. Like he can't coach anymore. And so we kind of, he retired, but we kind of forced him out the door. Well, then who was next? Jerry Reese, you come on. Your head now is on the chopping block. And then it was Eli. Now your head's on the. It's just like every time. All they do is they go and blame somebody else. And to me, that's. I'm sorry, Luca, but that's what the Jets organization does. They just go on and on chopping heads, trying to figure out where the head of the snake is, and they don't know whether the head or the tail is. They ain't got a clue.
I mean, I have my own point to bring up, but first in NFL news, I just got a tweet that Brendan Scherf is being tagged once again by the Washington football team.
Wow.
The Jets target, but
I'm a bit surprised by that because they tagged him last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
That's a lot of money to why don't they just sign him at that point? I'm a little bit surprised by that.
I'm surprised she didn't have like some music to come in with that breaking news.
Yeah, like
it would have been a little bit more dramatic if you played a little music before you read off maybe a thought for next time.
Anyways, what'd you say, Alex?
No, I said you were saying.
Oh, I was going to talk about Jets Twitter and how we are. I think we're a little too
polar opposite.
Yeah, we're kind of polar opposite. Not that we have bad takes and crap, but I think Jets Twitter is overly infatuated with Joe Douglas, the general manager. He hasn't really done much as general manager. Most of it's actually pretty negative, but fans call him the greatest GM in Jets history, the greatest GM we've ever had. And one thing, he hasn't really done anything. Number two, is calling him the greatest GM in Jets history really saying something? I mean, look who we've had in the past couple of years, honestly. We had Mike McCagnon, who we fired in May, when we really should have fired him in January along with Todd Bowles. And Adam Gase actually got to pick the general manager. We had John Idzik, who sucked at drafting. And then we had Mike Tannenbaum, who was good his first 2-3 years, and he sucked afterwards. So I think Jets fans are a little too optimistic with Joe Douglas. I'm not saying you can't have faith, but every time there's this thing with false hope for New York sports fans, Knicks fans have it, Mets fans have it, Jets fans have it. So I'm a wait-and-see person.
I definitely agree with that. Whatever this guy's username is, I am very sorry. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. He goes, motherfucker, Brady going to win again. Hopefully not. I know he wants to be OBJ.
No more.
I mean, OBJ. Why would how many weapons they gotta have?
I'll say this.
Hurt seeing Antonio Brown win a Super Bowl because he did not deserve it. He really didn't. After all he put Pittsburgh, Oakland, and New England through, he didn't deserve a Super Bowl. That hurts to see that.
I was happy to see Brady win a Super Bowl again because to me it just adds to Eli Manning's legacy. You know, another man that doesn't get enough credit. You know, I just, for me, you know, to realize, you know, of course, Eagle fans, the booger eaters that they are, they got to claim that too with Nick Foles, but they also let him walk out the door with the statue. But you know, for me, it was cool to see Brady win a Super Bowl and you know that Eli got him twice.
Definitely. What was I going to say?
Because there's no question that he's there. It's hard to argue the fact that he is clearly the greatest, you know, quarterback of all time. You know, I'm old enough to say that I got to see Montana play, and I always thought Montana was great, a great quarterback. I always thought Peyton Manning was a great quarterback. Dan Marino I always thought was a great quarterback, but clearly Brady is just is an alien. And it's just something special. And so, to me, it's cool to see as a Giants fan to hold on to the fact that we got them twice in the Super Bowl.
Sean, you were saying?
No, I was just gonna say, did you want me to bring up what the Patriots fan I spoke to at work said about the Giants and those two Super Bowls?
Sure.
Well, I'm sure he said they were a fluke.
No, a little more to that. I asked him, you know, I said, how do you feel that Brady just won a Super Bowl? He goes, I'm happy for him. I said, you know, then he asked who my team was. I said, I'm a Steelers fan, but my family's from New York, so they're all Giants fans for the most part. And I said, but they still do like to talk about those two Super Bowls. And he goes, yeah, I'd rather deal with a Jets fan than a Giants fan, because he said, Giants fans, that's the only thing they ever have and will do. And they'll never be relevant again. I just said, okay, whatever.
I always laugh, Pizzle, when I hear people tell me that it was a fluke that the Giants won the Super Bowl. Every Super Bowl they won was more fluky than the ones that we won. The tuck rule.
Yeah, exactly.
The 1 yard line. The Atlanta Falcons choking away a 28 3-point lead with horrible play calling. What are you talking about? Like,
exactly.
The thing about Patriot fans, of course, they would say that he would rather handle the Jets fan because they've owned the Patriot or they've owned the Jets for many years, so he has powers. You know, I'm saying that, but you know, Patriot fans ought to be thankful for the Giants because you know this is where Bill Belichick cut his teeth, and the fact is, you know, without Bill Belichick and Brady, they would have never accomplished. You know, they would still be an irrelevant franchise like they barely was before Parcells got there, which is another one who led them to the Super Bowl and obviously got beat by Brett Favre and the Packers. But they ought to be thankful for the Giants organization.
Something I do want to remark on. Potato says, "Isn't Jets Twitter just one big depression club?"
No, they are not.
They're not like
that's
us.
More of the Steelers.
That is one of the Jets are what kills me about Giant fans because like it could be so far. I don't mean to beat you up, but it could be worse. We could beat the Jets.
Yeah,
like you know what I'm saying? Like it literally, you've got a franchise that plays in the same stadium as you that has clearly not had the same success as the Giants. You know, it's not. I mean, that's fair to say. I mean, the Giants' success is far greater than what the Jets have ever accomplished. And so, for Giant fans, I don't understand why they can't be grateful for what we have.
I know why.
We'll go ahead.
They're Yankee fans.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
You know, fan, I deal with turtle, and maybe that's why I'm more of a patient Giant fan. I don't know, but Yankee fans are the most unrealistic fans in all sports.
They're very unrealistic.
I agree.
And if they don't win a World Series, the world is over.
They think they're going. I think they think they're going to win the World Series this year. They don't. The Yankees don't.
And I'm not being a Yankee fan, but obviously their expectations are absurd every year. If they don't get
World Series or bust.
If they don't win the World Series,
but do you realize, Sean? And I know that you're not the only Yankees fan here, but
Well,
you
yeah.
do realize that the Yankee fan base, puts way too much pressure on their own ball club.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Because you get to October and they literally crumble every single year at this point. Honestly, they have become the Dallas Cowboys is what they've become.
I'll make the same argument for my Pittsburgh Steelers because I'll use the same argument as you just did. Steelers fans have their expectations way too high every year. After every loss.
Losing season since the merger.
Yeah. But it's after every loss. Tomlin needs to go.
Yeah.
Big Ben's washed. We have no offense. I mean, they need to be grateful that we even got to where we were this year because we didn't know what we were getting out of Big Ben. And we finally got a defense that we've been begging for years. We've got young talent on offense, but every year it's blow it up, restart. It's Super Bowl or bust for the Steelers, and it almost reminds me of the Cowboy fan base. So I see it for the Yankees and the Steelers, and it's really frustrating to me, at least.
You're not going to the World Series this year either, so let that one go.
Don't say
Let's
that.
see. I'm not gonna.
I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen.
Well, tell the Yankee fans that, and come to New York and tell them that to their face, and we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, that won't end well. I was bringing a knife to the gunfight.
Yeah.
What's up, Mr. Buddy? He's a good subscriber of mine. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I'm not going to butcher it, but he said he is going live Sunday morning with Timothy Big Blue. You guys can check him out there. Anyone, feel free to call in. I know I have somebody in the waiting room. Let's see what else. Belichick, because Brady giving back money to keep everyone there. That's how you win. Okay. Yes, NYG coverage. They do have a press conference tomorrow. My
guess would be they're not going to give away any secrets. But my guess is, just to answer what potential offseason moves that they may or may not make. Just take questions. Basic stuff. Yeah. Probably kind of a unity thing, like coach and GM are on the same page. That would be my guess.
Yeah, they're not going to tell you who they're signing.
Yeah, they're not going to tell you their first round draft pick is going to be.
That would be stupid. I don't know the context of this one, but this next one's Sean's favorite joke when it comes to arguing with Luca.
We don't talk about that.
Yes.
We don't talk about that. Never happened.
Yeah, just keep that in mind as a.
Just imagine the Jets. The Jets could have been like one of the greatest franchises in the NFL, but nope.
He walked out. One more thing before I bring in this guest. Luca, you said you had something about Sam Darnold and not Giants Twitter. Jets Twitter is kind of clowning you. They're also saying that, your statement source could have some truth to it. So kind of explain that.
Well, I heard from an inside source that first it was uncut, and then they had the inside source. Obviously, it looks like Sam Darnold's going to be traded to the 49ers. The deal seems to be done, but I guess it hasn't been shouted out by the big guys in the media. That's what I've heard.
Wait. Were you the one that dropped that?
I dropped that on Twitter, and I keep getting clowns. So you know what?
Because I didn't see it, but a bunch of my subscribers messaged me and said that they heard the Jets were trading Darnold to the Niners. You're the one that dropped the information?
What's the percentage you have on that, Luca?
I don't know, honestly, but it could seem likely because, remember, Saleh came from San Francisco, and Darnold fits the West Coast system. So a San Francisco connection would be likely.
Just don't have the clickbait, please.
But where's Jimmy G gonna go?
That's a good question.
I don't know. I haven't been provided that.
New England, from what I've been hearing, New England's been interested in bringing him back.
Jimmy G also has a no trade clause, so.
Oh,
true.
Okay.
That's gonna be an interesting situation, but don't be like Giants Twitter and some of these, article makers and beat writers, and don't be clickbait, please.
Peter Ida says, "Aren't they getting Lawrence with the first pick?" Yeah, we botched that. We meaningless wins in week 15 and 16. So yeah, we screwed ourselves.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, the guy you're going to be getting if you take a quarterback is pretty damn good.
Wilson or Fields?
Yeah,
I like Wilson.
I'm not a big Lawrence guy. So for me, I don't think it matters that you won or lost.
Yeah, I remember the one stream.
You're not going to allow. Listen, that's another thing that bothers me is like fans can sit on the sidelines and be like, yeah, let's take a loss today. But you are not going to convince 53 professional grown men athletes to go out there and just lose on purpose.
Exactly.
That's like that. The pride that these individuals have, every one of them are the best player from their hometown, one of their best players on their collegiate team, high school teams, and now you're asking them to lay down and take an L for only to be replaced by some guy that you'll be happy that they'll draft that you don't even have a clue who he is. Yeah. So it's like it's silly.
One thing I can't stand, Pennzoil. I always try to understand where fans are coming from, and I know you hate the tanking thing, and I will never root for tanking. But I hate tanking. I could understand the philosophy if you're completely out of it to root for your team to lose to get a better draft pick. I could understand where fans are coming from. What I can understand is when the team wins to get mad at the team. The players aren't going to go out there and intentionally lose the game. So I can understand in your head being like, yeah, I hate to admit this, but yeah, if they lose, we could be set up better in the future. But how can you get mad at the coach and the players for going out there and win the game? That's my biggest issue with fans when they become pissed off that the team went out there and won the game. That I can't understand at all.
Luca, you want to reveal something? You want to share something with the class?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, go ahead, Luca.
Let me explain what us Jets fans that wanted to tank were reasoning with. Most of us know that Darnold is gone after the 2020 season. It's going to happen. We all know it. But the thing is, we had a chance to get the first overall pick. It wasn't even just for the quarterback's sake. It was for the coaches. You're going to have all this cap space. We're going to have all this draft picks. We can finally get our true number one candidate, whether it be Urban Meyer, Matt Campbell, or whoever, Bill Cowher. It was for that reason too. And I know Jets fans were pissed off at the Jets, Jets fans like myself were being pissed off at the Jets for winning, but I can't expect the players to give up and just tank. Us fans know they're not going to do that. But when Mekhi Becton in Week 15 after the victory called out Jets fans, it kind of pissed us all off because we've been witnessing hell for the past 10 years. We haven't been to a playoff spot since 2010, and we've been through hell and back. And I wish some players would just look through the fans' glasses and sit in their shoes for about a couple minutes and see what we were looking for. We just want to look at the future. That's all.
But he hasn't been there since 2010.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, he's a part of the franchise. That's what we wish.
But his canvas has only been painted on since he's been there.
I see where you come from.
That's you know what I'm saying? He hasn't went through. This is what bothers me about so many people, even Giant fans, and a lot of times is they put all of this energy of when the Giants haven't made the playoffs, and they throw it on Dave Gettleman when Dave Gettleman's not responsible for all those years. Mm-hmm. He's not responsible for that. He's really. It's hard to even say that he's responsible in his first year as a general manager because he had to do so much of a cleanup work. And in a lot of ways did what the fans wanted him to do. So that's what bothers me about fans is they can't understand that when a reset has been pressed, that means the reset from previous years needs to be gone as well in the mindset of a fan because you've hit the reset button. We're not worrying about 2 years ago anymore. We've already hit a reset.
Yeah, if you're doing a proper rebuild, Pennzoil, and this is what I love about the Eagles, by the way. The Eagles are going to make the same mistake we did. And they brought the GM back, and you already see them backloading more contracts to try to get under the salary cap. It's only going to screw them up even more. Yeah. But when you do a proper rebuild, it literally means, like you said, a reset. That means you're supposed to suck. You're supposed to get – and I don't think Giants fans realize – how bad we were in a situation financially with all these veterans. When you get rid of them, that gives dead cap. You have to start over. You have to build through the draft. It takes time to come back up. And as a Giants fan, you almost want it to be gradual, because if it's accelerated, that means you took shortcuts, because it shouldn't come that quickly. The end game for me as a Giants fan is sustained success. It's not a quick fix and you get there for a year, maybe 2, and then you fall right back down again. I want to build this the right way. So kind of like the Steelers, the Steelers are the best run organization in the NFL because they don't take shortcuts. Tell me the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers signed a high free agent. They don't do it. They build exclusively through the draft, and they let their players just replace them the next year. Chase Claypool is going to replace Juju Smith-Schuster. They do it all the time. They let these guys walk their own way. They keep building through the draft. That's what the best teams do. You do it gradually. You don't take shortcuts. And I think a lot of Giants fans don't realize that. And they they see the Cleveland Browns. I hear it all the time. Oh, the Cleveland Browns rebuilt in 2 the Cleveland Browns rebuilt in 2 years. That team's been rebuilding since Jim Brown retired. And that team had an unbelievable setup in the 2018 draft. They had the first pick, they had the 4th pick, and they had a ton of cap space. The Giants had no cap space. Like the situations are not comparable, and I don't think Giants fans look at this with clear eyes.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with that. Evan says Dave Gettleman has been getting blamed since 2018 because we went 5-11 that year. Do they not know we were 3-13 that past season? Kind of what Pennzoil was talking about is the cleanup, and you don't go from a 3-13 team to being
they're climbing a ladder. They're climbing a ladder, and the most important thing is they didn't regress. They didn't go down a rung. They've continuously went up with Dave Gettleman. Maybe it's not at the speed, like that the booger eating geeks want it to be. The ones that say, well, the Colts and the Browns were drafting right with the Giants that one year, and so they should all be at the right. No, that they were at different starting points. And
what was the Colts and Browns cap space?
They were completely a different starting point. So that idea is so misinterpreted. It's not even correct. So it's just crazy to think how some people think.
Potato says, I am just waiting for Sam to become the next Ryan Tannehill if he leaves the Jets and Gaze.
I don't think Sam Darnold is done in this league.
I don't think so either.
Neither do I. And I'll explain my perspective on that. I don't think he becomes the next Tannehill, but I think his ceiling right now, in my belief, is a game manager. Because for one thing, everybody compares the Darnold thing to Tannehill, like how Tannehill reemerged and whatnot, but Tannehill actually had some solid seasons before Gase came along. With Darnold, he was just a completely unknown product, and he still is an unknown product. We don't know if he's going to boom or he's going to bust. So right now I'm putting a ceiling on him for him to be like a Jimmy Garoppolo kind of guy.
See, my mindset with Darnold is I don't think he can be a game manager. And that's not a knock at him. I just don't think he's that type of quarterback. Mm-hmm. To me, coming out of college, he's more of a guy that's not that I'm ever going to compare him to Eli, but he's a guy that's going to make big plays for you, and he's going to make mistakes, but you have to allow him to be a little bit more of a gunslinger. I never viewed Darnold as a game manager type quarterback. I think he's a guy that in the right situation could be a good quarterback, but I don't really view him as a game manager.
G-Men Sports says, I am kind of late, but what's the opinion on Dak Prescott? G-Men Sports, I'm not gonna be a lazy bum and not give you the opinion and make you scroll back 57 minutes. But basically, we think he's a good quarterback, but he's not his worth when it comes to making the rest of the Cowboys squad pay for it in terms of talent-wise, coaching-wise, and cap space-wise. Obviously, putting a taint on Jerry Jones is never good, and that's obviously that situation. One of the guests in here is muted and his camera's off, so I'll wait till obviously that happens. But the next topic I do want to talk about is this Russell Wilson situation. And let me just see, someone else just commented. One league source said on the Dak Prescott deal, you know what this is. This is Jerry Jones tipping off the extraordinary TV deal that is coming. If he meets Hard Knocks, it might just be up there.
I can see that.
No, I think he's referring to the TV deal that people have been talking about that may raise the salary cap.
That's what they're talking about, Alex.
Okay, I feel stupid, but let's add someone else in. This is Sammy. He's a little quiet, so you might have to put up your volume for this one. He's a Giants fan. Sammy, how you doing? What are some topics you do want to bring up? Some questions, some topics.
I'm good. I was gonna say, I'm as a Giants fan, I'm very happy that the Cowboys wasted a ton of money on Dak. Obviously, compared to the other QBs up there in their pay, he doesn't deserve that much. So it just means less money going to the rest of the team, and obviously the Giants are to benefit from that.
I have one thing to bring up similar to the topic, and I'm going to start with Pennzoil, then go to Tana, then go to Sammy, and obviously go around the table. This Russell Wilson thing is obviously going, day by day with this whole, he's complaining about Pete Carroll not getting help on the offensive line, and it kind of compares a little bit to Deshaun Watson too. Is Russell Wilson right in this situation, but is he also wrong for just saying, I'm the franchise piece. You have to build everything around me. Obviously he's been there for years, but it just, do many people, and I think many people do have this opinion that he's just, going about himself and not depending on the rest of the team. So, Pennzoil, I'm going to start with you. Does he have too much power in not Washington? Well, that might be his target. Does he have too much power in Seattle? And do you think quarterbacks, at least going to the upper levels, have too much power in terms of, trying to, say, in terms of talent and around them and stuff like that?
You may not like my answer, but the Russell Wilson stuff is about as big of a clickbait garbage as we can find in sports right now. I mean, you're telling me that an organization in Seattle is just going to give up Russell Wilson? Hey, it's nothing. Oh, yeah, we'll just replace that guy. Yeah, that'll be easy. What are you talking about? What planet does Seattle just trade Russell Wilson and just, be okay with it? What did he do wrong? He asked the team to improve his offensive line so he could live out his playing career and not get crushed, right? I mean, one of the biggest luckily for me, or for the Giant fans, we got to watch Russell play against the Giants, and the Giants was one of Leonard Williams' best games all year. Was when we played against Seattle. Leonard Williams was a monster that game. Our D-line really played well because their offensive line was terrible. I mean, and Russell was, from that game, you could tell he was extremely frustrated with his offensive line. And so for me, I don't think there's any problem with the quarterback. Hell, I wished Eli Manning would have went in there and said, get Eric Flowers the hell out of here because he's killing me. I have no problem with the quarterback going in there and saying, we got to improve this offensive line. And whoever heard that story decided to try to make it something more than what it is, right? It's like the Watson deal. It's like we can't talk about anything else in society. We just have to have these clickbait trades. And so I know it's not the exact answer you want, but it's garbage. You know what I'm saying? It's just fill-in time to get us to the draft is all it is. It's not even real. You can't convince me that Seattle just trades Russell Wilson. You can't. You just don't do it. It doesn't happen. Wasn't even being talked about being traded to New York
2 or 3 years ago, not this year.
2019. Yeah.
Whoever the geek is in Seattle that writes all that, it's literally just clickbait is all it is.
I agree with you. I think this is the dead time, like you said. And I know as a YouTuber, it's hard to find things to talk about. I try not to be clickbaity, but I'll be the first to tell you, I think it is clickbaity. Is there maybe a little bit of smoke there? Yeah, he's not happy. That doesn't mean that they're going to trade him. That doesn't mean that he's going to demand a trade. As a matter of fact, the reports came out and said that he has not demanded a trade. Supposedly came out with a list of 4 teams that he'd be willing to go to. I think Dallas was one of them. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. Chicago was another. I forgot the Saints, and who have no cap space, so that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
So he's not going anywhere. Russell Wilson's going nowhere. I think everybody probably realizes that. I think he has a little bit of a gripe, like Pennzoil said. They have not built properly there. Mm-hmm. They just haven't. They traded away all these draft picks to bring in Jamal Adams, and he looks at it like, well, you're giving away these draft picks that you could use to help me with the offensive line to bring in a safety. And I'm sure he's looking at things like that. He's upset. Yeah, they got him some receivers. They got wide receivers over there, but the offensive line's been really bad. Part of that's because of Wilson. He makes the money that he does. I think he has to acknowledge that also. As a franchise quarterback, you're going to hurt your roster. It's just the way it works when you make the money that you do. But I think he's trying to use his power as a franchise quarterback to probably try to force Seattle into doing what he wants them to do, which is give him some protection. I think that's what that's all about. I don't think they're going to trade him.
He has the weapons. He has Metcalf, for example, but he needs time to throw.
Yep.
And at the same time, he also probably would like to have a long career. And you're not going to have a long career if you're continuously getting hit and banged around. Look, everyone thinks because the Stafford and Goff deal happened that this league all of a sudden is going to start trading quarterbacks left and right. And that was just a situation that was perfect. Stafford was done in Detroit. They wanted a change. They found a partner that was done with their quarterback in Jared Goff. They made a trade. This is not going to all of a sudden become a league that just does these massive QB trades every season, every offseason. It's just not going to happen. QBs hardly ever change. There's a lot of guys stick with them for extended period of time. Sure, the Tannehills will slip through the cracks every once in a while, the Nick Foles, but most of the time, the quarterbacks, when they get drafted to a team, once they sign that deal, just like Dak just did, they're going to stick with that team for quite a period of time because teams don't want to have to search for quarterbacks. They don't want to. It's such a position that's hard to find a good one.
I do have to mark on something. Evan said a little bit earlier, what's going on with Williams? I'm very scared. Basically, what we said is not a win-win situation. It's more like a lose-lose situation. He wants $20 million. I don't know if the Giants are willing to give him that. It doesn't look like they'll franchise tag him because the deadline's around the corner.
They might be backing that up, though, the deadline.
I heard about that as well.
Yeah, they don't have
what's the sunglasses at night? That's Pennzoil's trademark appearance.
Sam? We got a problem?
I don't think he's watched enough of your videos. No disrespect to Sam, I don't think he's watched enough of your videos because every video has
whose fault is that? That's his fault.
By the way, something I do want to put in, I don't know where Luca is. He keeps crapping out. I think he's on his school
laptop. He's a
laptop.
Jets fan. That's his problem.
Remember,
they don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
What was I gonna say? Everyone, real quick, I don't know when Luca's coming back. I think the limit is like 6 people in here. I will bring on another guest though till he comes back or whatever. But anyway, if anyone hasn't checked out already, go buy some of Pizzle's 60-minute man stuff. I've been repeating, as Sean and Luca know, I repeat a lot of Luca's phrases, especially when we all talk on PS4. 60-minute man merch. He's growing his YouTube channel, guys. You can check that out. Why is everybody crapping out today?
They're not 60-minute men.
They're not 60-minute men, yeah.
It's
an in and out kind of society we live in.
I mean, Luca kind of was. He really wasn't, but
I'll be honest. If you're a Jets fan and you're hanging in each and every year, that's kind of a 60-minute man. But I don't know. But then again, they don't. That's the reason why they're always batted because they don't know when to hang on to when they got something good. Like Sam Darnold, like he might be something good, and they're just like, I'm done with him.
Yeah,
I feel like he shows hope on the first drive of every game. Drives down the field, gets a touchdown, and after that, it's all downhill.
Is that a Sammy? Is that a Phil Simms picture in the background? I see.
It is.
I like that. I like that.
Didn't even know he had that, but
Phil Simms.
Sammy's cool like that. Sammy's cool like that. Let me see. The non-60-minute man is back in, as Pizzle referred him to. He's not. He's a Jets fan. Sean, you're not 60 minutes worthy either.
What's going on tonight? This thing's being stupid.
Someone must be eating the internet games. It might be a possum.
That's not impossible up here.
Well, I mean, with you,
that is not impossible.
No, Entertainah just dropped.
Entertainah dropped.
What the hell is going on tonight?
See, I think it's something. That means it might be something with the website because, like I said, I got kicked 2 or 3 times already.
Oh my god!
So it might be StreamYard.
I don't feel like we started, but at the same time, I'm just gonna wait till Entertainah gets back in. Yeah, Entertainah out, Evan.
One guy commented, "I blame the Eagles."
No, I'm not a 60-minute. I don't know what happened. I got to pop up.
So
did I.
It's between me and Pizzle for 60 minutes now. I guess.
That's right.
At least that's what we're
hard to beat here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see. Let me just do one test. I'm not gonna end the stream, but I want to see if the limit is actually 6, and it's limited to 6 people.
It's limited to
Sammy,
10. Right?
No, it's for.
I think if you pay
version.
for it, it's 10. I think if you
We
pay
had a
for it,
long
you can have
stream
10.
last week.
What are you saying, Sean? John?
Didn't we have a longer stream last week though?
No. I'm not talking about limits. I'm talking about
Yeah, then we have
how many members you can have. So, Sam, I'll get back to you in just a second. I do want to bring on this other guy. So I'll just stay in the studio. I'll get back to you shortly. Right now, and Sean's crapping out now.
No.
Yeah, I blame the Eagles for this.
This. Let's see if he's back yet. It's got to be like the 4th time that happened.
I know.
This has got. I think I got a new name for this. The Interruption Podcast. I think that's what we're going to call it.
Yep, that's what we're going to call it.
I like that better.
I'll bring this up, but also bring on, as I said, Sammy's waiting in the studio. But I know this guy, he balances a lot. He's a young kid. He's very knowledgeable. He goes on a lot of the hub streams when he does the call-in shows. I know he's doing one tonight. He's doing one tomorrow. This is Football Talk with Benny. Benny, how are you doing? What are some thoughts you're going to give us?
I'm doing good. There's not that much stuff because I mean, there actually is a lot of stuff tonight. Actually, that is true. But I know. I mean, I just watched the end of your podcast. I wasn't sure what you guys were talking about earlier because I was doing something actually on my channel. I was working on something, but yeah. But I was thinking about what do you guys think about this whole Dak Prescott thing because I didn't get to see what you guys thought about that.
We basically think, and I'm going to cover for everybody here. I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but we basically think Dak is a good quarterback. It's just going to come down to the fact that it's going to make the rest of his team suffer, the coaching staff, the whole organization suffer the contract. And, they've signed like how many guys to extensions over the last couple of years? Jalen Smith, I think Leo Collins was extended. Zeke was extended. They were trying to get rid of him. So it's going to be a lot for the Cowboys. But for, as Pizzle, Entertainah, and I'm guessing you were Giants fans, this is good for us. This is good for us. So,
yeah. I mean, I don't see this as any way they can honestly become contenders now. I don't think there's any way. There's not much of a way.
The biggest issue I had with Benny is I think it was inevitable, but they should have done it 2 years ago.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's what everybody is saying. Yeah, definitely, because they had a chance to, that in that point, and they just decided not to. But then the weird part was a couple of years ago, weren't they trying to? They actually offered him at the end, but they never got to finish it or something like that, right? I remember that.
I think it was last year. They were kind of it went down to the deadline and whatever it was.
Dak Prescott's brother was mad and all and something like that. I remember that, something like that.
Whatever it was, had Dallas done what they were supposed to do 2 years ago, he would have been making $30 million instead of $40.
And yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I think it's just it was just something bad on their, just by their organization. But look, they're in the situation. So if you guys were the, Cowboys organization, would you do that? You guys are already in the situation. Would you give him the money?
I would not. I would not. Not now. I probably would have 2 years ago, but now, at least for me, and maybe somebody will have a different opinion. From my perspective, now that you've let it carry out as long as you did, and he's coming off an injury, I tag him one more time. I do what Washington did with Cousins at this point. I would have tagged him again. Maybe even look to trade him. I tag and trade possibly, and then I'd let him go. I would not have signed him at this point. I think it's dragged on too long.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see what
that's
you're
easier
saying.
said than done, though. I know, obviously the Cowboys fan would revolt if you.
I think they would.
But the mistake they made was not doing it 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. They should have just done it 2 years ago. That's the truth. But I think it's but how are they able to pay for him? You think they wouldn't be able to pay at this point?
There goes Luca.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Benny, for doing that.
It's
but
fine. No, you're good.
The Wi-Fi's been crap. I don't know what's everybody's problem today. I mean,
honestly, I don't think it shouldn't be StreamYard because I was on using StreamYard earlier and it was completely fine for me. So
I gotta find out what Luca's problem is. Everybody's crapping out today.
Maybe it's the fact that you have 6 people on. That might be the reason why.
No, my old laptop kicks me out sometimes randomly.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't do that to me, or else Pizzle's going to win the 60-minute man contest. I mean, we're already over 60 minutes, so I mean, but we all know Pizzle's 60.
Yeah, for sure. Beanie, are you on Twitter?
Yeah, I am on Twitter. Yeah.
You gonna give me, you're gonna give me the tag or not?
Yeah.
It's
at
chat.
Football Talk underscore Benny, FBT underscore Benny. Wait, give me a second. I'll pull up my phone. I can't just
FBT underscore with Benny.
It's on FBT. I'll put it in the chat. It's
Okay, Benny. Don't holler at me, Benny.
Okay.
Yell.
I think I follow him. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Chain it is.
Is Luca back yet? Hold on. Yes, he is. Luca, what's the problem that you're having?
Oh, is he?
I keep getting kicked off. I think my internet's mostly fine.
Oh yeah, I follow Benny.
Okay.
Yeah, Twitter.
So we don't know the source of the problem then.
Unless I could go on my phone.
Okay,
you
Benny.
You retweeted.
Well, see, I'm on my phone too, but it's
Okay, Benny.
Oh, you found it. Okay, you got it. There
I'm
you
your
go.
21st follower.
Thank you.
Okay? I better not see any clickbait on that. I'm gonna come and get you.
As I put in the chat, he is also
There you go.
on YouTube.
Better not see any clickbait. Are you a Davey G fan or not?
I'm a Giants fan. Yeah.
No, a Dave Gettleman.
Oh, I'm a half kind of. I don't.
What does that
know.
mean?
I'm like.
You're on the fence?
Okay, so I'm on the fence with him. I like some of the stuff he does.
What's
sometimes.
the problem, Benny?
Don't yell at the kid, Pizzle.
What's the problem, Benny?
Look, I think sometimes he makes some stupid decisions. I think
Like what, Benny?
I think sometimes he needs to sometimes he makes bad draft decisions. I think
Okay,
the
Benny, give me
Saquon
an
pick.
example. Give me an example.
I think he probably shouldn't have taken a running back at number 2 overall.
Okay, who should he have taken, Benny?
I think he probably should have taken Quentin Nelson.
Okay, Benny. It's easy to say that now.
Yeah.
But in the moment, wasn't it pretty difficult not to do what he
Yeah.
did?
No, I see what you're saying.
Okay, give me another example.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have taken Daniel Jones at number 6. I would have taken Josh Allen, but
oh,
But what were we going to do at quarterback, Benny?
I probably would have probably. I'm not sure what I would have done. Honestly.
Okay, but hold on. You're a Giants fan. It's hard to argue that Daniel Jones wasn't the best player on our offense a year ago.
Yeah, that is fair. Yeah, fair. You make a good point.
So then maybe that wasn't a bad pick.
Yeah, but then at the same time,
See, I
think
see
Josh
you,
Allen's a
Benny.
great
See,
player.
how old are you, Benny?
I'm not allowed to say, but I'm in my teens. I'll say that.
Okay, well that's fine, Benny. I'm just.
Yeah.
I see that I like the fact that you're a young man coming here on YouTube, going to share your passion with the Giants, right?
Yeah.
You're strong. You're ready to go. You got a lot of opinions, but they ought to be correct, Benny. They got to be correct. They can't be wrong. And I know I heard some of the channels you're following, Benny, and I got to be honest with you. Some rough ones. And I'm going to go check and see who you're following on Twitter too. Because if I see
I like Benny.
I like Benny.
Cool.
I'm not beating up on Benny. I'm just saying he's a young mind that needs to be shaped correctly. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's as far as Dave Gettleman goes, or as far as the pick, it's hard to sit there. The Saquon Barkley was a no-win situation for him.
Yeah.
To me, if I'm being completely fair, the only thing that I think they probably could have done was trade down. But you don't know if there was a trade partner though.
The biggest thing too, Benny, is if you say that Dave Gettleman has done a bad job at a particular area or a particular thing, what was the alternative?
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
see what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
it's easy to say Daniel Jones was not the right pick. It's easy to say that. That's a very hot, popular thing to say. But what is the other solution?
Yeah.
You know, what is the other? What is
you would have rolled with Eli for another year? That's what would have happened.
Yeah. Which you know me, I would have been okay with that. But
I mean, do you think Daniel Jones would have been there with the 17th pick?
I don't think so. No, I think the Redskins were going to take. I think Washington would take him.
On draft night, I thought he would have been, but not after the fact.
Yeah.
I think he would
now looking back on that, I agree with you. I thought he was going to be there at 17.
But here's the one thing I don't think Dave Gettleman gets credit with, Benny, because I only bring this back up because you kind of mentioned it. He didn't take Haskins.
Yeah, no, that's no you. Yeah,
Which is the thing that if you want to be mad at Dave for taking him there, at least he didn't take Haskins.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah,
I'm going to guess that. Where do you stand on Leonard Williams then? Because that's another hot one.
Oh yeah, that's
Where do you stand? Because to me, Dave's in a no-win situation.
Yeah.
I don't mean to take over the show, Alex, but I got a young mind.
It's okay.
I think the Giants. I mean, right now, I do kind of want to pay Leonard Williams, but if he is asking for too much, I would franchise tag him and try to find a trade partner.
Pizzle.
So franchise tag him and then trade him.
Tag and trade.
Trade him for what?
I would think you would probably get a second or third round pick.
The second.
Okay, well,
you'd have to get a second.
At least you didn't say a first, because the first wasn't realistic.
I don't think he's going to get a first.
You were honest, and at least you were somewhat on point. I don't.
Well, here's what I'm going to say, Pizzle. And let's just play this out and say that happened, because I think it is possible. I've talked about that. I
don't hate that. I don't hate that.
If Gettleman did that, the Gettleman haters would never give him credit. But think about this logically. If Gettleman did that, all the people that bitched and moaned about the Leonard Williams trade, Gettleman gave up a third and a fifth. If you were then to tag and trade Leonard Williams, you got 2 years out of him, in which he played very well.
Very well.
And he got more for him than what he initially gave up for him.
And if that
scenario were to play out,
he's played better as a Giant than he did a Jet.
Oh, not even close.
So
yeah, definitely.
A lot of people beat him up because they said, "Oh, well, he hasn't done anything with the Jets." Well, he came over with the Giants and did something.
Yeah,
he did something.
Man, I'm curious Luca's take on this, because he's a Jets fan. He gets to watch him, and I know Jets fans were ecstatic when you traded him because you knew he was leaving anyway. But one thing I've heard from a lot of Jets fans was early in Leonard Williams' career, he played very well because of the surrounding talent on that defensive line. They had players that could help him out early in his career, Mo Wilkerson, guys like that. And then the talent on the defensive line kind of deteriorated towards the latter half of his career with the Jets, and that's why he kind of regressed a little bit.
I can see what you're saying, because 2015 he was drafted. He was surrounded by Mohamed Wilkerson, Damon Harrison, Sheldon Richardson, like the best of the best. I shouldn't say the best of the best, but really good defensive linemen. As his career went on, I say the talent got worse around him, I'll be honest. I'm not afraid to admit that. I think he started to get more double-teamed, but he just couldn't figure his way out in like a Greg Williams scheme or whatever, so we traded him for a third and a fifth. Right now, that third-round pick isn't working out too well, I'll be quite honest, so you guys so far have won the trade. Now we got to see what the fifth-round pick this year.
I do want to add something really quickly. Tomorrow, I pre-recorded it, but tomorrow's podcast episode that will be premiering at, I believe, 3:00 p.m., I am talking about the Leonard Williams trade. I am talking about the OBJ trade. So that's something for the newer viewers to just sit there and listen about. I'm talking about the OBJ trade and the other trade, the Leonard Williams.
About the OBJ trade.
Because I'm going to evaluate. Remember, last week it was, and I'm going to credit him. Authentic brought it up, and he was, saying how the Giants gave up on him and whatever he said. I'm not going to
look. I love Authentic, but Authentic can't let OBJ go.
He is too attached to that guy.
I love Authentic. Authentic is one of my favorite Giants people that I've met on YouTube. Love him. He truly is.
He's great. Yeah,
great. But he can't let OBJ go. He can't.
And that's not even a knock on Authentic, because that's 90% of Giants fans.
No, that's not no. I'm not saying that makes him a bad person. No, but look, there's nobody. I can't imagine there's hardly anybody that loved Eli Manning as much as I loved Eli.
Yeah.
But I've let Eli go and moved on and jumped on as easy as I could with the Daniel Jones train. I've tried to jump. OBJ needed to go. He had to go.
Yeah.
There was no question. He had to go. It didn't matter how talented he was. OBJ had to go. Okay. And it doesn't. Well, I won't even go as far as say he's a cancer. I understand where that thought process can come, but the fact is OBJ couldn't play a full season. His availability wasn't always there. When he was there, right? We're either punching a kicking net, we're getting in a fight with Josh Norman, we're doing weird dances that some Giant fans didn't really care for. We're punching a hole in a wall at Lambeau. We're going on a boat trip before the biggest game and potentially the last run in Eli Manning's playoff life, right? Which, by the way, Eli played a great game that day. Doesn't get any credit for it. And then he goes on ESPN with that little rat, Josine Anderson, and he doesn't even defend Eli and just throws him completely under the bus, which, by the way, Eli had one of the worst offensive line in front of him. So, no, I will not say that OBJ needed to stay. OBJ needed to go. And the fact is guys like Authentic, although I love him to death, he can't let it go. I don't understand it because it was for the better of the team.
Yeah, it was.
A lot of Giant fans have not really gotten over yet, and that's kind of like Pizzle's point that he's made several hundred times that he will not buy a Giants player's jersey because he doesn't want to get too attached. And here we go with Luca again.
Well, let me say, OBJ came back up because they released Golden Tate, and Golden Tate was thought to be the replacement to OBJ. But the stupid thing in that is Golden Tate was not brought in. Golden Tate technically by number was to replace OBJ, but nobody actually thought that Golden Tate was going to do OBJ-like things. Nobody, which, by the way, Golden Tate, although he needed to go as well, made some big plays for the Giants last year in some big spots.
The thing with Golden Tate, and Golden Tate sucked this year, but the thing with Golden Tate, you're absolutely right about that, Pizzle. People forget, one, he was brought in for the Pat Shurmur scheme. He fit that scheme very well, and he performed actually very well in his first year with the New York Giants. People forget that. He's not near OBJ, even though on a per game basis, he did better than OBJ did his first year with Cleveland. If we're being real, I think OBJ had 3 or 4 touchdowns. He only had 1 up until the last 2 weeks of the season with Cleveland. If we're being honest with ourselves.
And Sox, can you pull that back up, Alex? Because Sox, this is why I love Sox, because Sox has got something between his ears, and that's a good thing. We could use a guy like OBJ. Now our team is ready.
We're more complete.
We're a more complete team, and we're ready for a guy like OBJ. We don't need all the antics. And in my opinion, the closest thing to OBJ could potentially be one of the big 3 that's coming out. A Smith, a Waddle, or a Chase, like one of them. We don't need the antics, but now we are ready because we now have, I think, an offensive line that can compete. Granted, there's still some question marks to be answered there. We have a quarterback who apparently now can throw the ball downfield, although I think Eli could have done it, just Eli needed more time. We're in a better position for that. We were not in a position to have Eli or OBJ was never meant to be the main course to a team. He's meant to be the side piece to the main.
You don't build around him.
You don't build around.
You don't build around any receiver.
You don't build around any receiver. Yeah, you don't build around Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is that little bit of sprinkles on your ice cream.
Yeah.
He's the side dish.
And I love Sox, and I know he's not saying this. I love Sox Arizona. He's also a great supporter of mine. Obviously, I know he's a tremendous supporter of Pizzle's. But the one thing I always hear of the people that
great Rocket League player too.
What? Oh yeah. The one thing that I always hear about the OBJ trade that people complain about is just that, and Authentic's one of them. He'll say it is that we traded OBJ and look at our wide receivers because of it. Okay. But how about you look at what we gained because of it? We have one of the best defenses in football due in large part to the OBJ trade. So there's more to a team than just a wide receiver. When you give up something, when you get something, you got to give up something. Yeah. We gave up production at the wide receiver to improve our defense. Now that the team is more complete, let's go and get that wide receiver.
Yeah, now it's time. Now it's time to get the receiver, which, by the way, you didn't have to have a star-studded receiving cast a year ago because you had Saquon Barkley. But Saquon got hurt.
Yeah.
So, the OBJs of the world. So, anyways, Alex, you can do your little video on OBJ if you want to. But Giant fans continue to be in an abusive relationship with him. I've said that 100,000 times because it's so true. They can't let him go. They continuously let him come back, only for him to beat the hell out of him again, and then he goes off and does something else. I mean, I don't we have so many battle scars with OBJ that I don't understand why some Giant fans can't let him go. We've been a better organization without him in the locker room. We've been a much better team without him. I understand we made the playoffs with him. I understand there were things that were done because I understand he won games on his own. I get like he beat that one Sunday night game against the Cowboys.
Oh,
two examples, yeah.
I mean, those were games where OBJ won us the game. Again, the defense also won that game too, but OBJ's stellar play won the game. But they got the problem is OBJ made the catch and he literally on that night had fans for life created, and they've had a hard time letting that go.
Something I want to point out, obviously, this is what Josh said. Josh said, I think the Gettleman hate revolves around the OBJ trade. Very much true. He isn't a bad GM. Giants fans just hate him and bash him every time. And every move he makes because of that trade. Very true. This is Kevin. Odell blocked me on Instagram. I don't want him back. Kevin runs a very, I would say, popular page on the Instagram. It used to be Giants Graphics. Now it's Uncut Giants. Over 27,000 followers. You guys go check him out.
And by the way, not to be happy about this, but OBJ didn't have a full season last year with Cleveland.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he's not a 16-game player.
And Cleveland did better without him.
And did better, and Cleveland made the playoffs without him. Yeah, they did much better without him. And the reason is because Baker was a better quarterback without him because Baker was forcing stuff to OBJ.
Just like Eli was.
Yeah. Forcing. Yeah. Because OBJ, he wanted to be cool to OBJ. He didn't want OBJ hitting a kicking net. So that's where Sean says he's a cancer, where I agree with him that he's a cancer in that regard. Although I don't usually like to call players that because, it's a pretty severe thing to say. But I understand the truth to that.
So I was just wondering, by the way, with Odell, though, you guys obviously talked about how they are better without Odell, the Browns, obviously. Do you guys think it could mean that when he comes back this year, that they could become worse because of Odell?
Yes.
It's possible.
Winning and Odell Beckham Jr.
They don't go together.
Yeah. They don't match.
For some reason, the correlation between those two aren't a good mix. He had a 1,000-yard season with the Browns in his first year. OBJ, we didn't win that trade. Yeah, bullshit. They went 6-10 with Freddie Kitchens as the head coach. So don't tell me we didn't win that trade. Leonard Williams, I'll give the benefit of the doubt to that trade. I mean, you'll see, for anyone who's watching, you'll see in the podcast episode tomorrow, because Ashton Davis, we still have yet to see what he's about. And also the other fifth-round pick that the Jets are getting in there. Benny, any more questions? Any more concerns?
Not really, but thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah.
Benny, you guys can go subscribe to him. I put his link up in the chat. Young Giants content creator, also just does football around. Thank you, Benny, and hope to see you sometime soon. Guys,
see you too.
Check him out.
Have a good night.
So I'm going to bring on another Giants content creator. He is one of the newer ones. Real quickly, I just want to get to this. Kevin Walters said Odell wants to win, but he wants the ball just as much. You need a wide receiver who wants to win and doesn't care if he gets 1 catch or 12 catches. Unselfish football is elite.
It's a team game. Yeah. It's not the NBA.
Yeah, team sport. Yeah. Team sport. You don't do things just one person. So I'm going to bring in All Day Giants, who also is known as Keith Archer. He has had a lot of Giants content creators on his channel. He's had LPG. He's had Justin Penick and the guys from Talking Giants. He's had a lot of guys on. He also had Rob Parker from Fox Sports on, which is something I couldn't even find. Keith, how are you doing, and what are your just thoughts on anything? Give us anything NFL Giants related.
Hello to everybody here. I actually wanted to touch on what Kevin just said about you need a receiver who is okay with the 1 catch game. You look at Mike Evans. He had a couple games this season where he had 1 to 0 catch games, and you look where they are. Like the Entertainah said, it's a team sport. You got to be okay with not shining every game, and Odell wants to shine every game. So that's why a receiver like him didn't work.
Definitely agree with that. And that's, that's why he's one of the divas in sports. That's why there's people out there like Michael Thomas, and I'm not going to lie. I did not like the OBJ trade at first, but then when I understood it, it came to me as like, this is a good trade. Not like the fans out there who just not accepting the football aspect of things, but just as the fact that, you understand the football move and why it's been done. Not just, they traded away our star receiver. They signed him to a 5-year, $95 million contract. But definitely, I think so far, as I said, we definitely won that trade so far, obviously, with O'Shane Ximines and Dexter Lawrence. And once again, we got all the defense in there. And look at our defense right now. I mean, personally, I would say even with 2 years of Kevin Zeitler, that's a winning strategy. That's at least in my opinion.
Well, Zeitler was from the other trade. We got Zeitler for
apparently, and I read this in a couple different sites. They tried packaging those two trades together.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, makes sense. But, they were like 2 weeks apart.
Yeah. Definitely makes sense in that aspect. One quick thing before we go to talking about football more. Entertainah, this has been one of my biggest bugs with the MLB and Rob Manfred, and I know you're an avid baseball fan, and anyone else can jump in on this conversation. What do you think of the new rules he's putting in?
I'm old school, and I know I get what baseball's trying to do because they're trying to speed up the game. I don't like the 7-inning double headers. I don't like that you start with a runner on. What is it? Did they back it up to the 13th inning now in extra inning games, or is it just the 10th? It was the 10th last year. If it's the 10th,
no, it's still the 10th.
It's still the 10th. I hate that.
I think it's a gimmick.
Yeah, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to speed up the game. I also don't like the fact that when a guy comes out of the bullpen, he has to pitch to 3 hitters. Like there's certain instances where you only want a guy to pitch to 1 batter, and I know it slows down the game, but it's strategy, and it takes away from the strategy of baseball. So, I know I'm old school. I know they're trying to attract a younger audience, but I'm not too much in favor. And I was a guy that was very much against the DH coming to the National League. I've since adopted that. I saw that last year. I think that could work. I like the idea of having a DH in the National League, even though they're not going to do that this year. But some of those other changes, I'm not a fan of.
The 20-pitch one in this spring training, that was stupid. That's been stupid. It's the one where if the pitcher throws 20 pitches, you can take him out after that and just end the inning, which is like, what is this? It's a gimmick now.
It's spring training, and they're trying to limit how much they're on the field, and they're trying to give managers more flexibility. I just think it takes away, because how are you going to prepare yourself for, what are you doing? You're in that scenario in the regular season, and you don't have any practice in that scenario, because in spring training, the manager's like, okay, end the inning right here. That's my issue with that.
Entertainah, got a question for you. Potato says, does Porzingis have a return policy he keeps breaking?
No. Knicks fans do not want Porzingis back.
Oh.
No, I saw it.
No, absolutely not.
And listen, I'll be the first to say I was livid when the Knicks traded Porzingis. I fell in love with Porzingis. He was a guy that we hoped would be a franchise player. We won that trade. We won that trade big time. We got Julius Randle with the cap space from it. We got 2 future first-round picks. We dominated that trade. And then we ended up trading away Morris, which resulted in quickly. We dominated that trade. It was a great trade. I don't want Porzingis back here. Porzingis forced his way out of here. So, no, I don't want Porzingis back here at all. He's too injury-prone. So, no, I'll pass on Porzingis.
Yeah.
With that, I remember I was on PlayStation with Sean, and Luca told us about the trade, and Sean was livid. He's like, why are we doing this? What are we, the fucking Jets?
But you have to understand, though, and I was just as pissed. You have to understand, Knicks fans have been waiting for and basketball is different than football. Okay, it is a sport where individuals impact the team on a much higher level. We have been waiting for a high impact player that we drafted since Patrick Ewing. Right. I mean, let's be real. And he was a guy that finally showed that people forget the year before he got hurt, maybe 2017, 18 season, I don't remember what year, he was playing at an MVP level. He was carrying that Knicks team, and then he had the unfortunate injury. And I that's why I was pissed. I'm like, we finally found a guy that we could potentially build this team around and could attract other superstars, and then we trade them. So I completely understand why Knicks fans were upset when we made the trade.
Going back to Giants topic, football topic, let me just paste Keith's channel in the chat if StreamYard would let me load this. Potato says, well, hopefully Sacramento Kings give us a first-round pick for him. I don't know if he's referring to Porzingis or someone else. I don't watch much basketball. Most of the games are around 1 a.m. for me. Where is he? What coast do you live on? Is just a question that I have. Sox Arizona, who's also a Celtics fan, Giants fan, and Red Sox fan, says Knicks fans may never see another.
I hope that's not true. Not true.
Well, he's a Celtics fan.
No, that's not true. I always fight with. I'm always fighting with Nets fans. It's
they think
ridiculous.
They rule New York when they really don't. Keith, I got a question for you because you are one of the newer Giants content creators, and we were talking about it earlier. Me, Pennzoil, just how many of us that are in here. Giants Twitter is a cesspool. What have you learned from it so far in your young, I would say, experience content creating?
There's a lot of people who have great knowledge on Giants Twitter, and there's a lot of people I can go to with information and I can believe that it's true. But then you got those fans who are just extremely toxic and don't care what they say out of their mouths, and they'll say some pretty personal and ruthless things that I'm like, at the end of the day, it's not that serious because we have no effect on what goes on. But yeah, it's been up and down, but more on the upside. I've met a lot of good and great people who've been fun to talk to and fun to interview.
Real quickly, before I actually go to Pennzoil for this one, because I know he was trying to impact Benny's mind on content creating and ideas like that. Potato says the Western European coast. Wow. And then Arizona says Knicks get to 17-16 and parade like they won the championship. Once again, like Pena said, we haven't had much. Do you want to put your 2 cents in about, kind of like you did with Benny, or are you just going to let someone else do it?
About what?
The Giants Twitter, the Giants content creating, that all stuff. I
went to All Day Giants. That's I went to your YouTube page. I haven't heard of you. No offense.
No, yeah.
This. I always like finding new content creators. So I'm actually going to subscribe. I see that you interviewed Caveman Bobby there. So that ought to have been a good one. But I'll have to check that one out if But nevertheless, it's kind of like All Day Giants said. It doesn't matter what some people's opinion are, because at the end of the day, it matters. It comes down to, what does Joe Judge, what does Dave Gettleman, what does the Giants front office want to do to try to attempt to improve this team? So when you have so many of these geeks get on Twitter and they say the things that they say, it's like, well, hold on, you're not being paid for this position to make that kind of call. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and play armchair quarterback for a lot of these positions. It's easy to do that, especially right now with free agency getting ready to kick off, because it's easy to say, hey, this player should be a part of this organization, but you don't know that player wants to play here. You see what I'm saying? So I can't beat up Dave Gettleman if X player doesn't want to play for the New York Giants or doesn't want to live in New York or New Jersey. You see what I'm saying? So it's not – Dave Gettleman's position is a very thankless job for, I don't know where All Day Giants stands. I don't know if are you a Dave Gettleman guy? Where do you stand on that?
I mean, he's done some.
It's okay to be honest.
Yeah. So he's done some pretty boneheaded things, in my opinion.
Okay, well, let's talk about him. Where do you feel like is bonehead? Give me one example.
Honestly, like I saw it, but like trading up for DeAndre Baker, that I wasn't a fan of that.
Okay, that one. Okay,
that's a fair one.
Honestly, that's a fair one. That is totally
like when he picked up Bradbury. Like I did my 2 cents and I looked into him a little bit before we signed him, and I liked that he looked pretty good to me. He had potential. And then Blake Martinez, I know a lot of people said he wasn't good in coverage, but I still like that last year when I was watching this, we didn't do a lot of tackling. Like, we weren't really good at tackling. And then when we got a guy who was good at tackling, I was okay with that. I was like, okay, you filled up 2 big needs on our defense.
And Martinez.
I don't hate him, but I'm excited to see what he does this offseason, really. I'm curious to see how he goes about things, and how he said we're going to get some playmakers, so I'm excited for that.
So the one thing that you don't like is you didn't like the Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think it's very fair.
That's honestly, I don't hate that at all.
Yeah. And what I'll say is, the Twitter GMs definitely won year 1 for Dave Gettleman. Whether or not you want to admit who was more responsible or not, I personally think Mara may have influenced them trying to not rebuild then. But regardless, things got off to a rocky start. Last year, Twitter GMs lost. Dave Gettleman, the Twitter GMs wanted Corey Littleton. Corey Littleton failed miserably. Martinez was a great signing. The Twitter GMs did not want James Bradbury. They said we overpaid on a 3-year contract. They lost. They'll never admit that. The Twitter GMs wanted Simmons. They lost. Simmons would have been the wrong pick. The Giants needed to take a tackle. So last year, the Twitter GMs lost big time. And you honestly can't complain. If you're being honest and unbiased off last year, Dave Gettleman did a fantastic job with his first year with Joe Judge. And we got to hope that he doubles down on it.
Yeah. Before you go, you can go ahead, Pennzoil.
No. Well, I was just going to say the Baker thing is only bad because of what happened in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Because in fairness to Dave Gettleman, that defense was complete if Baker plays. If Xavier McKinney doesn't get hurt and Baker doesn't have the thing in the offseason, which, by the way, obviously he was sabotaged. Mm-hmm. If he plays and McKinney gets to play, that defense is complete. And we don't have any issues with not having a number 2 corner, right? Obviously, Logan Ryan was able to fill a big need for us. But that defense was, in my opinion, a top 10 defense and would have been better had it had Baker in it. So
I completely agree with that.
It's like, I agree with you that it was a reach to go up and get him.
Mm-hmm.
But in fairness to Dave Gettleman, how did we know
that was going to happen?
That was going to get sabotaged in the offseason.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. But another one that just come to mind, I think it was before we picked Jones, and I know how that it was my biggest. I wasn't mad at quarterback at 6. I wasn't mad at that at all. My beef was that I would have rather Josh Allen then and then go Daniel Jones at 17 instead, because I felt like edge was a big, not a big need, but a need that we had. And a guy of his talent, he had the Pro Bowl and he was on and off this season, but a guy like that, we didn't expect him to fall at 6, and he did. And I expected Dave Gettleman to go for him and get him at 6. But for Dave Gettleman's hand, I don't know what the other teams would have did. I've heard some things that Washington would have took Daniel Jones with the 15th pick, so he knows more than me. I won't say I know exactly everything that went on with every team, because I don't. But I would have preferred Josh Allen with the 6th pick, and then Daniel Jones with I think our 17th or our 2nd rounder.
Yeah,
you could thank the Raiders for the Josh Allen option.
Yeah, they took Pharrell.
Yeah, the thing with that pick is this, and obviously everybody knows I was furious on draft night. But the thing with that pick is this: if Daniel Jones works out, nobody's going to give a shit about Josh Allen. Like if the quarterback works out, we're not going to be talking about Josh Allen in 3 years. We're going to be talking about we got our franchise quarterback. When you hit on your quarterback, everything else gets forgotten. So that's what it comes down to for me with that pick. If Daniel Jones becomes a franchise quarterback, it was the right pick. Period. End of story. The question is he going to become that franchise quarterback? But I'm completely with you on draft night. I wanted Josh Allen.
And I know it's not saying a lot, but Daniel Jones was the best player on the offense last year. So, yeah. I still don't know if it was a bad pick.
Potato says,
I just don't know what else were you gonna do at the quarterback position? What were
you're sticking with Eli? If you're passing on the quarterback, you're sticking with Eli.
How many more? And I loved Eli. I wish Eli could have played 10 more years. But how many more years were we gonna do Eli?
Because Jones was not getting 17.
No, I don't. Hey, I don't think I think Washington would have taken him. And to me,
there was rumors Denver would have taken him.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, John Elway's taken a lot of quarterbacks, or when he was in that position.
Well, he took Locke.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy to me is I think out of the quarterbacks from that draft, I think Daniel has been really good. I mean, obviously, is he ready to win a Super Bowl? I don't know. Like it took Eli a few years. Like Daniel deserves to have a couple years to try to figure out the NFL game. He's never played with anybody in college or even the pro level who's been an exceptional, out of this world talent. Mm-hmm. Not thrown to one.
Yeah, and I love Barkley,
but that's not a receiver.
Yeah,
and he hasn't really had Barkley.
He hasn't really had Barkley.
Barkley's only played for 10 starts with Jones,
and his tight end clearly is unreliable.
And I'm as big of an Eli Manning fan as anybody, but the fact of the matter is, if you're being fair, Eli Manning came into a much better situation than Daniel Jones did. And let's see the Giants improve this situation, and let's see what we got. Let's hope he is the next Eli Manning.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of ask you guys about that, because I think most Giants fans will admit on draft night we wanted Saquon Barkley, or I know a lot of people who wanted Saquon, but looking back and the whole narrative of you don't pay running backs and things like that, like what were you guys' reaction on draft night when you heard Saquon?
I was happy. I wanted to trade down. If I'm being completely honest, I wasn't on YouTube at the time, but I was happy that we took Saquon Barkley. The other point that I want to bring up, that when people assess these draft picks, when they assess Saquon Barkley right now, injuries obviously play a major factor, and that's just bad luck. You can't predict that. He didn't have injuries in college. When people assess Daniel Jones, when people assess Dexter Lawrence, when people assess Andrew Thomas, what I don't think they're taking into account is the team they got drafted on. Like, it's much easier to look good when you go to a good team already to begin with. These guys went to a team that was gutted. Like, they have no help around them, so I think it's very hard to assess these players quickly. Like, guys that get drafted to Kansas City, guys that get drafted to the Rams, guys that get drafted to Cleveland even, because they had a lot more cap space. They built that team quickly. I think it's easier to assess those players when you're Barkley, when you're Jones, when you're all these other players. This is a team that started from ground zero. Like, I think we have to give them more time than other teams may give their draft picks because of that. I think we have to let this team grow and mature, and I think in a year or two you'll get your answer.
I mean, I was in the boat with thinking that Saquon we were making a run with Saquon. Like, hey, we're gonna have Saquon, we're gonna have OBJ, we're gonna have Eli, we're gonna have Ingram, we're gonna have pieces. And what I was ignorant to was the fact that our offensive line just wasn't going to be good enough, period. It wasn't. It just wasn't good enough, and that's why the offense couldn't do anything, because the offensive line was not quality. Granted, Eli had taken a step back, absolutely, but the offensive line was not giving Eli the ample enough time to even make a play with anything. So it is easy to sit back and say, well, Quentin Nelson was the right pick. It's easy to say that and now, but to me, Dave Gettleman was in a no-win situation, because Saquon, I don't know who Saquon would have went to.
Cleveland. I think he would have went to Cleveland.
I'm sure he would have went somewhere, made a great highlight play, and everybody would have been crapping all over Dave Gettleman the next day. So I don't know how, it's so easy to make those claims when you're not in that seat.
Yeah, and real quick, one thing I want to add to that real quick is, if Saquon goes to Cleveland, which I think is where he would have went had we traded down, there is no doubt in my mind Giants fans would have been bitching and moaning just as much as they are now, because we would have traded down, we would have got Quentin Nelson. Okay, let's just say that would have happened at number 5. We still wouldn't have been a good team. It's not like Quentin Nelson would have made the New York Giants this great team. You wouldn't have had a playmaker in the backfield. The offensive line still wouldn't have been great. Nate Solder still sucked. We brought him in. He wasn't good. So we still would have been losing football games, even though Nelson, yes, if I'm being honest and looking back now, Nelson was the long-term pick. Running backs have a short shelf life. If you're rebuilding, it would have been smarter to take the guard there. But Giants fans still would have bitched, because this team would still be a 5 or 6 win team, and Barkley would be breaking records in Cleveland with that support system.
Hold on, Alex. And it's not like Dave didn't have a guard plan. He got Hernandez. He had a plan. So it's not like he just was like, oh, just screw the guard position. Like, no, he had a plan. And I mean, I think that's all I can ask for.
And something I've seen a lot, obviously, with the Saquon thing and the Quentin Nelson thing, because I know for some of you Giant fans who know, I think Pest was saying this, a couple other content creators, bringing up the whole number 2 pick and all. How many other teams passed on Quentin Nelson? Did they know that he was going to be that good?
Nelson.
I mean, and then what was I going to say? Entertainah and Copizzle know who this guy is, and he actually wanted to come on my podcast for an episode. But his name is DJ Smooth. He's a troll all over Twitter, and he said, we should have drafted Fred Warner and Darius Leonard. And then Kush the Hub replied, he goes, well, did Dave Gettleman and anybody else have insight that these 2 linebackers were going to be as good as they are?
That's my favorite, when people complain about 3rd-round picks, as if every GM didn't pass up on them 3 times. Like that's my favorite, when people complain about 3rd-round picks.
Potato, yeah, me too. Let's see. I've read some obscure article saying the Patriots were in talks with the DJ camp, ready to replace Brady. Well, to draft.
Yeah, they like Jones.
Yeah, I remember.
Didn't we have a Pro Bowler, Evan Ingram, when we drafted DJ?
Wasn't a Pro Bowler at the time.
It wasn't a Pro Bowler at the time. We have to put that into play. But also, it figures. He stays healthy. The 16 games this season, and he completely fucking sucks. I mean, that's the Giants' camaraderie right there.
I mean, I'll go against the grain because I know a lot of people would love to hate on Ingram or say we trade him, things like that. But I think a major part of why he had such a down year and when it came to drops and things like that is because when Saquon went down, he was our go-to guy on the offense, and I don't think that's the type of player he is. If he has a good supporting system around him, such as a wide receiver 1 and then a healthy Saquon, and then he's that helpful guy who can assist, I think that's more of his role where he can step up. I don't think he's the Travis Kelce or the George Kittles who can just take over an offense and take him to the next level.
Which maybe that's true, and if that is the case, you still don't keep him because he's going to want George Kittle money after this year. Yeah. So we're letting him go.
Here's the problem with that too, all day, is you drafted him in the 1st round.
That too.
And the issue is not that he's had just one bad year. He's had multiple bad years.
Yeah, people forget his rookie year. He had tons of drops.
Like he hasn't figured it out, period.
It's not just dropping, it's blocking too.
And injuries.
Yeah. I don't know what he does good. No, in fairness, there's no doubt when he gets the ball in his hands and he's in the open field, he can make plays. There's no question. But we're not playing track and field here. This is football. You got to catch the ball. You got to block. You got to do all that stuff. So there's no question that he'll make a play where it's just like, wow, and that will set back all of the stupid stuff he's done. But he's not a big time player. I haven't seen him make the big time plays yet. Like Philly, for example. I hate to go back to that, but we're in the playoffs if he makes that catch.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Josh said he can't stand DJ Smooth. Something I do want to bring up, though, and then also Potato says, well, if he gets better gloves that aren't covered in butter, he should be good, is that a lot of these content creators, and I said this on Twitter the other day, it's funny, and DJ Smooth actually has a YouTube channel. But a lot of these guys on Twitter, they say the shit all they want, but then when they go to YouTube, they don't say the same shit.
He has a YouTube channel, DJ Smooth?
Yeah, he's got like 2 videos.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Well, one of the videos he did like a Washington football team. It was like a record prediction before the year, and one of the guys just hated on it. I think he cursed him out in the comments or something like that. It was really, I mean, I'm not surprised knowing who DJ Smooth is on Twitter, and also going back to the other conversation we had about Gettleman. Everybody knows the troll Will on Twitter, at least on Giants Twitter, complaining about Gettleman all day. He also said that he hopes that Dave Gettleman has like a sexual assault allegation against him. I mean, you know what? You could be a piece of trash, but that's just fucked up.
That's mean.
Yeah.
Some things you just
Dave Gettleman has also done a lot of this job while being sick, and I don't put that as an excuse, but I'll say this as a hardcore Giants fan, I think the Giants are in a better place now than they were when he got the job.
Definitely.
And there's no question that I wish the Giants would turn into like a Patriots organization where they would be really good for the next 20 years and win so many Super Bowls. I know you don't want to hear that, Luca, but, become that. But that's, at the same time, they had a unicorn type run with Brady and Belichick. And so, it's hard to repeat that. But, yeah, it'd be nice if we could get that. But I think the expectations of that it's silly to expect that each and every year. That doesn't mean that we can't demand greatness from the organization, quality. Obviously we spend our hard-earned money, whether it be merchandise or going to a game and all this and that. So you want to see a good product on the field. But considering an Entertainah knows more about the financials about it, they were in a terrible spot when Dave got the job. They were in a horrible spot. They were in because they made, and then credit to Dave, he tried to give the fan base something by making a run, and at least knew in the middle of the year like this isn't going to work.
Yeah,
no potato.
It was just bad. It was just
he should have started the rebuild as soon as he got there. That to me is one of the mistakes that he's made. And if you're a Dave Gettleman hater, I that's the one that you can put on me, who's a Dave Gettleman supporter. But
you can't live in the past.
You can't live in the past.
There's a way. I'm the type of guy, and I think Pennzoil is this way. I think everybody on this panel is this way. That I try to make the best out of a bad situation, and the Giants were in a bad situation. The first 3 years here made it worse, but they're starting to make it better. So I don't understand why people continue to hang on to the past. We get it. You are upset about 2018. We started a rebuild in 2019. I don't need to continue to hear people saying, oh, we've been rebuilding since 2013. No, we've been rebuilding since 2019. We should have started rebuilding in 2018. I'll go one step further. We should have started rebuilding in 2016 rather than trying to have one more, spend all that money and try it 1 year of legitimate. That's when we should have blown it up. If we're being real, we should have fired Reese once we fired Coughlin and started then. We didn't. But Gettleman wasn't there then.
It should have been blown up the day they got back home from the Green Bay Packer playoff game. After the boat trip.
Yeah.
After the boat trip, they should have blown it up. Because the Giants haven't played a meaningful game since the boat trip game.
Yeah.
The Seahawks win this year was probably our biggest win since our Super Bowl. That's
what I'm saying. All the stakes are really high.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
And the Cowboy, honestly, this Cowboy game, the last one, Week 17, because of the chance to go to the playoffs, may have been it. No question, the Seattle win is the biggest win probably that they've had in the last couple of years. I'm just saying, for as far as meaningful as in, can go to the playoffs.
Everything's on the line.
Everything's on the line. You can go to the playoffs, or here's a playoff game. They haven't done one since the boat trip.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Going back to the OBJ thing, because I think OBJ is some of the negative stuff that Dave gets is still from OBJ supporters. They haven't let that go. They haven't let OBJ go.
Oh, for sure. I think that's the biggest culprit.
Mm-hmm. They got the jersey hanging just on the edge of the closet, and they want to pull it out and put it back on, but it's gone. It needs to be in the very back of the closet.
They need to put on a Dante Pettis jersey.
Yeah, it's time for it.
When I go on Giants Twitter, and to Dave Gettleman's point, I see a lot of people bashing him for 2018 instead of being excited for next season, and it's why are you mad at Dave Gettleman for he messed up. You can't time travel back then, 2018. You can't do anything. Why not be excited for free agency and the draft and hope and praise him to do better and get better at free agency and to constantly grow? Instead of doing that, people are bashing him for things that he cannot change.
It's called they want to be right.
Yeah.
They want to be right rather than
Unfortunately, there's a lot of fans. No, I shouldn't say a lot. I honestly don't think it's a lot. But there is a portion of fans that want the team to fail so that they could say that they were right. I honestly believe that. There are Giants fans that want this team to suck. They want to be miserable so that they could say they were right.
That point, yeah.
Just like the Knicks fans who want to tank.
Yeah.
Potato says, so we become, going off what Copizzle said about the Patriots thing, so we become the Lions and take everything the Patriots drop. No, I wouldn't say that. I know Copizzle.
That's not what I'm saying. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying the way the Patriots organization has been run the last 20 years, I think that every football fan across the country would say that that's what perfection looks like as far as an NFL organization. It doesn't get any better than that. Pure dominance in your division, constantly in the mix to win the championship, multiple Super Bowls, complete dynasty. Even though they've lost the Giants twice and they lost to the Eagles, even though they lost these games, they still were in contention. I think as a fan, if your team is in the playoffs or at least knocking on the door for 20 consecutive seasons, man, I mean, that you can't ask for much more than that. If you're 20 years old or 21 years old as a Patriots fan, your whole life you have been in contention. So they don't even know what it's like to. I can honestly say, I can honestly say I remember, some parts in the 90s where the Giants were just so irrelevant, and then there were some good years, and then there's some bad. Like there's been a lot of hit or miss years as far as me as just a Giants fan. So if you're a young Patriots fan, you've had it so good, you've had it almost too perfect that the expectations of the rest of your life as a Patriots
silver
fan,
spoon in their mouth.
Yeah, they're so full that they can. No, I'm not saying let's pick all of Patriots are losing. That's not what I'm suggesting. Don't get me wrong. I've always wanted Bill Belichick to come home, but it's not by any means. That's what I'm saying? I'm just saying that's what I wish the organization would be run like.
In my opinion, the Belichick era is in the history of sports, not just football, baseball, basketball, hockey, not hockey, tennis, whatever. The Belichick era is the greatest accomplishment in the history of American sports. When you factor in the salary cap era in the NFL, what he was able to do and continue. You think about all the players you said, no, they sold it. You think about all the players, you're gone. We're just going to replace you. We're going to bring it. And for them to maintain that dominance for that 20-year period, it is you'll never see it again. You will never see another team in the history of the NFL, if I had to guess, do what the Patriots did for that 20-year stretch. It is so hard to even stay sustainable for 5 or 6 years in the modern day NFL. To do it for 20 is mind-blowing to me.
Mm-hmm. I do want to add on to something Sox said. The best Giants fans there are. Looking forward to do some baseball with you guys. Definitely Sox, as I said multiple times before, when the Yankees and the Red Sox actually play each other. Either I'm going to try to get myself out to the stadium because the tickets are actually cheap right now, depending on the price you actually look at. And, obviously the streams that we're going to do, obviously StreamYard fits up to 6 people, me, you, Luca, and Sean being, just Yankees, Red Sox guys. One thing I want to add on to before I give Keith the room to say his final thoughts is the Giants, in my opinion, have learned in terms of branching off and getting scraps. You saw that with the Betcher era when they were taking all these guys from Arizona and they didn't work. They weren't picking up they picked up Marcus Golden, but they didn't pick up Chandler Jones or Patrick Peterson. They picked up Josh Morrow. They picked up Kareem Martin. Those moves failed. And then you go to, better coaching with better talent and Joe Judge and Patrick Graham, and it's working. And I think that's one of the reasons, just similar, why Pennzoil doesn't like Giants fans trying to go after Kyle Van Noy. So
yeah, he doesn't fit the system. If he doesn't fit if he didn't fit my Entertainah has been, I credit him with this, and I believe the same way the Entertainah does, is the Dolphins, we are what the Dolphins were a year ago.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And if to me, the Dolphins and the Giants are almost exactly the same team in a lot of ways, except we're a year behind. And I feel like the year you just saw with the Dolphins, granted, they didn't make the playoffs, but they were in a very competitive AFC. I think you're going to see that type of season with the Giants.
I agree with you.
A couple of little things. I understand Tua was a rookie and Daniel Jones. There's a couple instances, but what I'm saying is that team, the way they played, the way they competed, the way they grew, that is where the Giants are going. If Van Noy doesn't fit that system there with the Dolphins, he doesn't fit with us. You know, forget the money part.
See what I'll say, Pennzoil. First of all, I don't think he's coming here, but I don't necessarily think they cut him because they didn't think he fit. I think they cut him because they thought he made too much money, and with the shrug cap, they're trying to do something else. I think Pennzoil actually would be a pretty good fit here, but I don't think we're gonna have the money to be able to pay him.
But that goes with not being able to fit.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's part of it because none of these guys don't play for free.
Well, of course.
Professionals.
Yeah. Tudo from Italy says, "Ciao, my Giants Basanos. How you fellas doing? Just dropped in to pay my respects. Alex and Chris need to come to Italy and have some ice cold Peronis." Tudo's always fun going on every Giant stream that is possibly out there. Obviously lives in Italy, and he still keeps in touch with the community. Potato says, also any updates on the London Jaguars? Want to see if I can get a team close to where I live. I think he lives in England or at least somewhere in that area, but we'll see if they move out. Keith, final thoughts?
One thing that's been in my head for the last few minutes is the fact that you can argue that we were a few plays away from having a worse division record, but we were arguably 2 plays away from being 6-0 in the division this year. If Ingram catches the ball, we win that game. And then the Dallas game, we were a couple penalties away from winning that game as well, and a 2-minute drive from winning that game. We are, like, to the Entertainah's point, like we are the Dolphins. I agree with that 100%. We will be one of them. I'm not gonna say dominant, but we will be a good team next year, and we will probably make the playoffs. I'm all in that we will make the playoffs. I do believe that we can fix up the tiny mistakes that we did this year, and we can make up for those next year, and we can dominate. I truly believe in what the Giants are doing. I believe in what we're going to do in free agency in the draft, and I'm all in for what's to come.
You gotta believe, not wimp. Keith, thanks for coming on as usual. You guys can subscribe to him. I put his link up through the many chats that are there. Keith, thanks for coming on. Keep up the great articles. He actually did a breaking news one on the Dak Prescott one. He didn't break the news, but he wrote an article at uncutsportsnews.com. Well, it's Uncut SN. But anyway, Keith, thanks for coming on. Keep up the great content.
Thanks for having me. Peace out, guys.
Pleasure getting to talk
Have
to
a
you.
good night.
All right. So I'm pretty much going to start wrapping up the stream here. About 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Hold on a second, Alex.
Sure.
I want to ask, since 4 out of 5 of us are Knicks fans, I want to ask everybody, what do we think of the Knicks so far? What do we think is going to happen in the future? What can they go on their strong start throughout the second half? Do you think they'll make the playoffs? I'm going to start with Entertainah.
I think they're going to get in the play-in game. Because it's 7 through 10. I don't think their first half. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think their first half is sustainable because their schedule is brutal in the second half, and I think they'll hit some speed bumps. But I think the Knicks and the Giants are very similar. I think both teams are building the right way, and I think they're both on a very similar timeline. Much like last year with the Giants, you saw improvement. I think you're seeing even more improvement than I thought we would see with the Knicks this year. I think in the end they're going to finish relatively close to 500. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I also think both their coaches are very similar. I think Thibodeau's the type of guy that gets the most out of his players, and I think the same thing for Joe Judge with the Giants. I think they're both young teams. I think they're doing it patiently. For once, the Knicks aren't taking shortcuts, and I think the Giants are doing the same thing. So as a fan of both teams, it's almost like a carbon copy. Like I feel like both of them are really in the same point in the process, and they're both doing it the right way. I think next year, much like I expect the Giants this upcoming year to be a playoff team, I think you'll see the Knicks be a legitimate, good basketball team in 2021. I'm not saying they're going to be a title contender, but I think they're going to take another step. And as they improve, I think Barrett will get better. Like, that was the biggest thing to me coming into this year. Is RJ Barrett going to take that next step? And he has. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's had his hiccups along the way. But RJ Barrett looks really good. He's improved in every area of the game. Less turnovers, better three-point percentage, better free throw percentage. He just looks more confident out there on the court. Julius Randle's taken a huge step forward. We need a couple pieces. We need another shooter. We need a point guard. But they're definitely trending in the right direction. I'm going to say a couple games under 500. I think they'll get in the play-in game. But I think maybe the 8, 9, or 10 seed in that area.
That sounds about right. Do you think they need to acquire somebody at the deadline like a Terry Rozier or Alonzo Ball?
If they're gonna, I don't mind a small acquisition. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Lonzo Ball. I don't mind at all. That's a guy that you're buying low, and you're hoping that you could turn his career around with a good coach at Thibodeau. I don't want them to go out there and make a splash move. I don't want Bradley Beal. I don't want Levine. I don't want to trade away the future of this team like we did with Carmelo Anthony to get short-term success and maybe make the second round of the playoffs. I want them to stay the course. But if they make a minor move like that they feel like it helped the team, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I could easily be fine with a Derrick Rose-like move at the deadline, but I'm happy with the Knicks so far this year. I hope they keep up the good progress, and I want to see them – I would love to see them be a top 6 seed, but I think they'll just be a play-in seed because of how rough their schedule is.
I definitely agree with that. Sean, your thoughts, even though you live in Pennsylvania and you don't get to keep up much with them?
It's hard to watch them up here, but from what I have seen, this is the best Knicks team we've had in several years. I'm excited. Quickly's been performing really well. Barrett's getting better. We have one of the top defenses in the league, especially when Mitchell Robinson comes back. It's hard to say though if they're going to be playoffs or not. I think they're going to be in contention, coming down to the wire. But again, they have a brutal schedule. So if I had to guess, I would say a 7 or an 8 seed, maybe just a couple games under 500. It's hard to gauge right now because it almost feels like sometimes it could be inconsistent. Like some games, they look like, contenders, and some games they look like the old school Knicks.
Like the Giants.
So it's hard to say. Yeah, exactly, like the Giants. So if I really had to make a prediction, I think if we make the playoffs, it'll be a 7 or an 8 seed. But I like the direction that they're heading in.
Let me say this, Alex. And I think I reached out to you, Entertainah, when you guys drafted Obi Toppin. And I think I said to you on Twitter that you'll like him. And I don't know if you do or not, but I remember watching him play at Dayton a lot and thought he was a really good player. But I can tell you guys from an outsider's – now I'm not a Knicks fan, but from an outsider's perspective, I am highly rooting for the Knicks and the Nets to play each other in the playoffs.
Yes.
Because I am so anti what the Nets have done. I'm so anti.
Me too.
And to have a team, in the same similar cities, if the Knicks could defeat the Nets, to me that would be
awesome,
perfect for all the geeks of the sporting world who love super teams and love super athletes. Because honestly, I don't think the Nets. Not to change it to the Nets, but I don't think the Nets can win the championship, even with all their star power. Because to me, it's going to win a NBA championship. It requires you to play some defense, and I don't think that they're going to have the defense to handle it in the playoffs. So it'd be awesome from an outsider to see a Knicks and Nets playoff series.
Yeah.
One question I have for Evan. Do you believe the Nets run New York? Do you believe the Knicks run New York? That's the
Knicks easily.
I mean, we have to see.
I posted a tweet the other day, and no disrespect to Nets fans. Blake Griffin signed with the Nets. I said congratulations to the New Jersey Nets. There's one New York team. I don't care if their name is Brooklyn. The only New York fans that are fans of. Listen, I lived in Brooklyn. I lived where the Nets play. I could count on one hand how many Nets fans I saw when I lived there. Okay? New York's team is the New York Knicks. It's not a New York rivalry. The Nets fans that come from New York right now are people that are hopping on the super team bandwagon. And the second that wears out, there'll be Knicks fans again. That's my take on the whole Brooklyn, New York thing. There's no rivalry there. They're New Jersey's team, not New York's.
Alex, I think one day we got to get Josh Buell on here because he's a Nets fan who actually does think that the Nets still run New York. He said, there's more Knicks fans, they're more popular, but he said we're just a better team, and that automatically makes us New York's team. That's the way I see it.
Nobody even used to be a Nets fan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's always been a Nets fan. I will give him credit. I've known him a long time.
What year did they go to the finals with Jason Kidd?
Like the 2000.
Yeah, 2002.
But nobody was a Nets fan then.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, what it is? the only Nets fans, and I've spent plenty of time in New York because I go up to see family, or I used to go see Alex and Luca a lot. You don't see Nets fans outside of Brooklyn. You just don't. So, I spent a significant amount of time in Staten Island, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. And even in Brooklyn, Nets fans, you just don't find them anywhere. Now, I haven't been there since they became a super team, so I can't speak for it now. But even before, the Knicks represent New York. That just shows they are New York's team. The Nets are called the Brooklyn Nets. They only represent the borough. So, by default, it's still in Knicks City. And as you said, it's really New Jersey's team because they're just non-existent in New York.
That's where their fans are from. Their fans are from New Jersey, not New York. The only New York fans that they have are bandwagon fans.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I must say, my uncle, I guess in that case, doesn't have a, a smart brain or whatever, a functioning brain fully because he's a Jets fan. But he's one of the people that when the Nets moved to New York, that he jumped on that bandwagon from being a Knicks fan. Unfortunately.
Hey, you know what? I'll give more respect to that because at least he did it right away. When they didn't have this super team. I'm okay with that. But the people that all of a sudden becoming Nets fans now, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's bullshit.
Definitely.
I want to touch on the baseball subject. Entertainah, how do you think the Mets are going to do this year with Lindor, Carrasco, and all the new guys?
Cop's also a Cubs fan, so
I'm curious to hear Cop's take on the Cubs. But I honestly don't know a lot about the Cubs. I know that they're looking to trade Chris Bryant. The
media wants to trade Chris Bryant.
Yeah, only because I'm a Mets fan and I've heard that the Mets have been intrigued by the possibility of trading for him. But as far as the Mets go, I'm ecstatic, and I know a lot of Mets fans. First off, no matter what happens this season, we had a great offseason. We got a new owner, Steve Cohen. The Wilpons were atrocious. It was disgusting. They shouldn't have owned that team after the Wilpon scheme. So already I'm ecstatic. I don't care if they go 0-162. The fact that we got a new owner, the guy that's worth as much as he is, and a guy that actually is a true fan of the team and wants the best for the New York Mets, that alone is a great offseason. Best thing that's ever happened to the Mets since I've been watching the team. But in terms of the roster, a lot of Mets fans thought that they were going to make one or two more huge splashes. I think the Mets made a lot of great moves. They got Lindor, which is a huge splash, obviously, with the trade. They get Carrasco in that trade, which was a very underrated acquisition. He's a solid number 2 starter. They also picked up Taijuan Walker, which I thought was a really nice move to fill out the rest of the rotation. Their lineup, I can say this confidently. I've been watching the Mets religiously since about 97. Literally 150 out of the 162 games every year. Going into a season, I think this is the best lineup I've ever seen the Mets have. It's that talented. Look at this Mets lineup. I mean, you have Dom Smith, who's a great hitter. You have Pete Alonso. You have Lindor, obviously. They brought McCannon, who's a good hitting catcher. J.D. Davis is their worst hitter. He's even good. McNeil is their best pure hitter. Michael Conforto, who's awesome. Brandon Nimmo. The Mets have a great lineup. The one huge question mark I have is the bullpen. And,
that's a big one.
And that is what may hold the Mets back. I think they'll try to make an acquisition at the deadline to try to beef it up. But I expect no worse than a wild card this year. I think the Mets are going to be very good.
Cop on the Cubs.
Well, I want to say one thing about the Mets is because I've a lot of Giants Twitter. Some of them are Mets fans, and I'm a huge. I don't make it so known on YouTube, but I'm a huge baseball fan. I love baseball. For me, the Mets, it's so funny because I always like seeing the Met fans get really, really excited, and they and the Cubs and Mets have had actually in recent years some really good playoff games. They played some really good playoff series. But the problem with the Mets is they probably play in the best division in baseball.
It's loaded.
I mean, the Atlanta Braves are a monster. Washington's going to be back, I think, this year just because they're pitching. And granted, they're not 100%, but they have every chance to be back. Once again, everyone's sleeping on the Marlins, and I think I really like what Jeter has done down there. But I love that Braves team. I mean, that Braves team is really, 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 really good. As far as the Cubs go, they've kind of went through a transition period right now where they needed to go. They really needed to get rid of a lot of the starting pitching that they did. Like Lester was done. Quintana was done. Darvish. I like Darvish. Darvish was much better than I thought, but I think he's a little bit overrated in a lot of people's minds. Their starting pitching, the Cubs starting pitching this year is a little weak. I think their bullpen will be okay, and they're going to have some good hitters. I mean, Wilson Contreras and Rizzo and Bryant and Baez and even maybe Peterson. They're going to hit. I really like this new this infielder we have, second baseman Nico. I think he's going to play really good. And so the Cubs, I think the fortunate thing for the Cubs is I don't think the NL Central's that good.
Yeah,
it's
a wide open division.
Pittsburgh's a joke.
Pittsburgh's probably arguably one of the worst teams in the league. Milwaukee's starting to trend downward after having a couple good years. There's a lot of talk about the Cardinals because they obviously got Nolan Arenado, who I love as a third baseman, but Paul Goldschmidt hasn't done a whole lot for the Cardinals. Yadier Molina, who's one of my favorite catchers of all time, he's 39 years old. They've got a lot of questions in their pitching as well as their bat. So, like, the Cardinals are a little shaky. They might be an 85, 86 win team. So I think the NL Central is kind of up for grabs. But I tell you who my favorite team is in baseball this year, if you even care. This is why the Yankees aren't going to go anywhere this year. So I absolutely, and I told
Blue Jays.
I told Bad Dog a year ago. I don't know if he believed me, but I told him Tampa Bay Rays was going to be a problem. Granted, they almost stole the World Series, but I absolutely love the Chicago White Sox this year. I think
they're a good team.
Unbelievable.
They look like a good team.
The White Sox are going to be so much fun to watch. They're going to be really, really good. They're going to be lights out. Everybody thinks the Yankees is going to be really good, and it's going to be fun to watch them collapse. Just like I know they're Giant fans too, but I'm just saying, you guys just go ahead and get ready for Giants football. Don't worry about the Yankees in the summertime. It ain't going to be nothing to see. I'm just the AL Central to me is going to be a lot of fun, but I think the NL is going to be a fun year. Like, a lot of people are hyping up the West with the Dodgers and the Padres, but I think those guys are going to kind of beat each other up. Yeah. I think there's a possibility they're going to beat.
I could see that.
I will say this though: a lot of times, the reason why I'm not so back on the race, it seems like anytime teams go to the World Series, because they pitch so deep in October, the following year they struggle because arms are a little bit tired. Granted, I don't know what a 60-game schedule compared to a 162 is going to do. Like, it may benefit, like the fact that they played only 60 last year may benefit them. But usually teams that go to the World Series, like, if you don't get that World Series, you probably ain't going to get back. So it's a good thing for the Yankees. The Rays kind of went through that process and didn't achieve it there.
What I will say is one underrated team that a lot of people don't look at, and they may look now. The Toronto Blue Jays have an exciting young core that I think a lot of people don't look at. Kevin Biggio, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, their rotation could get better. Hyun-Jin Ryu is a good pitcher. Mm-hmm. I think their bullpen will need work, but the signings like Simeon and George Springer are definitely, I think, to be honest, with the losses in the rotation that the Rays did have, I think the Blue Jays might exceed them, in my opinion.
Agree with that.
But the problem with the Blue Jays is one of their star players, Guerrero, who was receiving a ton of hype coming in, became overweight last year, and he was missing easy ground balls. He wasn't acting like a professional baseball player. He was overweight, making a lot of mistakes. So their issue is, they're very talented, no question about it, but it becomes down to, will they act like professionals or not? Will they grow? Will they make the next step up and become just a really good prospect? Because that's the thing, is like a guy can, and this is kind of funny because we talk about Daniel Jones, is like you can be a really good prospect, right? And that only takes you so far because you come up with a lot of hype. Now it's time for you to be the superstar that everyone said you was going to be while being a prospect. And that's kind of like where Biggio and Guerrero are kind of in moment right now where they need to make that transition.
His dad, by the way, is my favorite player of all time.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome player.
I love Vlad Sr.
Yeah, awesome player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. One thing I have, and obviously this will take us to the end of the show because it's been 2 hours and almost 30 minutes already, but it's been fun. One of the problems I have with Manfred cutting minor league teams is that Sean and Luca will know who I'm talking about, but I don't know if you guys will. There's a couple of good guys in the Yankees system that are not prospects and won't get recognized. Chris Gittins is one of them. Trey Omberg is one of them. There's a couple of guys, they're not prospects, so they're not looked upon, and then they're just forgotten about. Like Kyle Higashioka, the backup catcher for the Yankees, he's been in the system since 2008. He's probably, besides Gardner, the Yankee that's been here the longest. So those
if you remember, it took Gary Sanchez a couple of years to get in the system because they had Cervelli was our catcher for a while. We had Brian McCann. It took Sanchez years before he could finally
Yankees fans that I talk to hate Gary Sanchez.
I know. Gary Sanchez is Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
He is. I mean,
someone made a joke about 2 years ago or 3 years ago even. The similarity between Gary Sanchez and Eric Flowers is both of them cannot block. And I just laughed at that one. I thought it was funny.
What's funny is the catcher position is probably my favorite position in all of sports. To me, it's fun.
I used to play catcher.
I love watching a really good catcher. And that's why I'm bringing up Yadier Molina. Like, I'm a Cubs fan, and I'm supposed to hate the Cardinals, but I've never been able to hate Yadier Molina because I just love watching him play the game. He's so good at it. And, Sal Perez, for example, for the Kansas City. And Joe Girardi was another one who I really enjoyed watching play catcher. But watch Gary Sanchez play. He frames good. He definitely frames good. He has a good job framing. And obviously he's got he carries a nice bat, but man, the other parts of the catching game, he just lacks.
Yeah.
Hey man, listen, the greatest man ever outside of Tom Seaver's Mike Piazza.
Mike Piazza was a lot of fun.
Not the best defensive catcher.
Yeah.
He was good at framing, like you said, but in terms of throwing out runners, not good at all. But his bat carried more than enough.
Yeah.
when you get hit like Mike Piazza, you kind of you say, all right, I could do with that. But the Salvador Perez is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so is Yadier Molina. But Pudge Rodriguez.
Oh yeah, I love Pudge.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy was all and underrated. I don't know if Pennzoil remembers this guy because he wasn't like a superstar, but he was known for the glove. Charles Johnson was actually a very good defensive catcher for the Marlins back in the day. I remember him as a kid. He was really good too.
Yeah.
Well, I've always admired that position because it's such a tough position to play, and so to me it's a lot of fun when you see a guy who's really really good at it. Yeah, there's always you can always see there's an elite players, but a lot of the shortstops and third basemen and second basemen in the major leagues, every team's got a really good player in the infield, for example, but not every team has got a good catcher. And it's weird because now we're getting to a point in the league where it's almost like you need two catchers, and it's like if you can just have two that are okay. And it's funny because it's almost kind of like it's not the QB position, but it's a very important position to have. You've got to have a guy when it comes postseason who can't have those silly mistakes where you're letting the ball get by. You can't let the runner advance to second, kind of deal. And so it's so funny because it's such an important position. And when you see why teams such as the Cardinals have always been relevant for so many years because they've had a guy like Yadier Molina behind the plate.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Gary Sanchez, besides the framing, has a good arm. And when it's, when he's blocking stuff, it all comes to play and he's good. But when, he's not blocking balls, unfortunately, that stuff, it doesn't show up.
In his defense, though, when you've got a guy like Chapman throwing 103 miles an hour, like that's pretty tough. There's no question. Like, that seems like it'd be pretty tough to catch that dude.
Definitely. Yeah. And obviously, like we could say about any sport, we don't know what it is like to be a catcher in the major leagues.
Yeah.
None of us are former catchers, but obviously, us being fans at least have some sort of a standpoint. I mean, Sean has the close because he caught in Little League.
I used to be a catcher. I'll tell you what, that position can be brutal, and that can take a beating on you. So even if a catcher struggles, I try not to be too hard on them, just because I know what they went. I can't say I know for sure what they went through because they play in pro baseball, but I tell you, being a catcher, it can be brutal. It takes a beating on you. It's not an easy position. It's probably one of the hardest positions on the baseball field, without a question.
I think it is the hardest on the baseball field.
Yeah.
Your knees also get beat up, and that's why so many catchers, for years complain about that issue.
I still do.
Anyway, that's pretty much gonna wrap this episode of the Boys in the Big Apple podcast up. Entertainah and Copizzle. Anyone can say any last words. I'll start off with Pizzle, Entertainah, Luca, and Sean. But first, I would like to say, if anyone hasn't already, we've gone 2 hours and 30 minutes, and there's still 14 people. Always hit the like button. Subscribe to Copizzle, Entertainah. I'm pretty sure some of these guys in here probably are already subscribed to them. Guys, hit the like button. Subscribe to me. Obviously, I got the new podcast episode coming tomorrow. Subscribe to your other favorite content creators. Let's see. Nice way to post fake news to get viewers. I don't know what that person means, but...
Oh, that guy's probably talking about my fucking Sam Darnold thing when I heard from my source.
You know what? He showed up at the last part of the stream, so he's definitely not a 60-minute man.
No.
But we're not click chasers. We're not clickbait guys. We produce content, and we mean it. But I'll start off with Pizzle and then go around the table.
Just appreciate you guys letting me come on. Keep doing your thing. It's always good to talk with Entertainah. It's always good to talk Giants football any chance I get. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Check out my page, Copizzle, Copiz. Well, as it's spelled, if you can read. So
they might not be able to.
They may not be able to. They may not be able to. So check out the channel. Probably gonna do some more content here. As we get closer and closer to the draft. I'm obviously very excited about potential free agency and draft for the Giants. I'm just like anybody else. I want the draft is like. Although I find it to be a little bit overrated, I understand it is important, and it's almost like you get a new toy on your favorite team. So it's like Christmas. So super excited about that. But just appreciate you guys having me on.
Tata?
Yeah, I always love talking with Pizzle whenever I get the opportunity. As a matter of fact, Pizzle, if you're free, I'd love to have you on the channel, maybe to recap free agency, or maybe the night before free agency, whatever. But Big Boo in the Bronx, man, you're a great supporter of my chat. I think you're one of the most, and I'm not just saying this. I think you're one of the more underrated voices on YouTube about the Giants. I think you deserve more viewers than you have. I say it all the time. The first time I heard you on Pizzle's channel, I thought that you had a really smooth radio voice. No, man. I anytime I get an opportunity to talk Giants, I try to. I like to work with guys that I maybe think more like, but I try to work with anybody I can in the Giants community, and I had a blast, man. I always love working with Pizzle. It was really nice to meet you guys too, Sean, Luca.
Yep.
Good luck to your Jets. Sorry that you're going through tough times on Twitter, but I had a lot of fun, man. Talking some Knicks, talking some Giants, and talking some Mets. So thank you guys for having me on.
Luca?
Yeah, I want to sentiment that too, Alex. Is you're very underrated, and to keep plugging away, man. Keep doing your thing. As I mentioned to you, I've been following all of the stuff you've been doing. So I'm happy to see what you've done so far, and just keep. As Entertainah will tell you, it's not necessarily about the numbers at first. It's just about putting in the foundation and building up your channel the best way you can.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you guys. Luca?
Well, I was glad I chatted with Copizzle and Entertainah. Actually, first time I ever saw Entertainah on YouTube was he was actually collaborating with Jet Central, and that's how I.
Oh, yeah. That was my early days. Yeah. Same thing that Pizzle said though. There's no magic formula to growing on YouTube, and not everybody's gonna grow. Obviously, you see tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of people that have channels. But my advice is always, first off, you got to be consistent with your content. And I think you got to be consistent with your opinion. I watch a lot of people, and I feel like they'll fold to what the fans want them to say, and it won't even be their honest opinion. I think I've learned as I've been on YouTube more and more. I used to be scared sometimes. I'll be the first to say it. When I first started, I was scared at times to really share my true outspoken opinion because I knew that a lot of fans would hate me for it. But I think that's what's most important is to always say how you truly feel. And as long as you back it up properly, even though guys like Pennzoil may disagree with you, as long as you back it up properly and I think present your side of the argument, even if some people may disagree with you, they'll respect it. And that's the advice I always give is always come with your true, honest opinion, and be consistent. And if you do that, you'll grow. You know how far you'll grow, I don't know, but I think that's the best advice I could give you guys.
Sean?
Well, I just want to thank, Alex and Luca particularly for pushing me out of my comfort zone. This is new. This is kind of new for me. I've been more on the writing side. I write about NASCAR. I've written about the Yankees. I'll even, write about other baseball teams. So I thank them for, pushing me out of my comfort zone. Copizzle and Entertainah. It's always, I'm new. Like I said, I'm new to this. It's interesting, hearing other perspectives from the Giants. I'm used to always hearing it from my family that lives up in New York or Alex. So it's interesting to hear your guys' takes on the Giants, on the Mets and the Cubs. So again, I'm very just appreciative to have Alex push me out of my comfort zone and let me try something new. I'm very excited for that, and I'm very excited for the future of this podcast. I think this can really grow, and I think bringing on two big names like this, it really helps. So all I can say is thank you for giving me this opportunity.
One thing before we close off, fun fact, Sean is actually moving up back to Staten Island in July.
Yes, I am.
So, he's counting down it's like a prisoner getting out of prison. He's counting down the days on his calendar until he moves up because he hates Pennsylvania with a passion.
The only thing I will say I do like is race weekend up here. Pennzoil, as I said earlier, I'm a NASCAR fan. I live 10 minutes away from Pocono Raceway, so if there's a time to be up here, it's race weekend. It's a lot of fun up here. It's almost like the whole community kind of comes together to enjoy the race. It'll be nice if they have fans back this year because this will be my 10th year going to the races. Mm-hmm. My first ever race, my driver Jeff Gordon won. Fun fact. So much as I could complain about this area, there is some good to it, but I prefer the city life, so I'm very excited to move to New York. I really am. It's something new for me. I can't wait for that.
Guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, do whatever else. Subscribe to Entertainah Talking Sports if you haven't already, which I highly doubt. Subscribe to Pennzoil. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you guys who's been, watching this through the 2 hours and 41 minutes. Definitely tomorrow is another podcast episode. I'm going to try to, obviously do this every Monday with new guests. And if it's not, it's me and Sean and Luca still trying to make this informative, but not fun. And unlike what D's Nuts said, we tell the truth here on the Big Blue in the Bronx YouTube channel. We don't clickbait for nothing. And I'm pretty sure if he's referring to Luca's thing, the whole title said MLB free agency for NFL. They didn't say Sam Darnold, fake news. We're not cleat chasers as Copizzle want to call it. So, you know what? Original content on here. It may not be the guys that like talking Giants and what they do or whatever.
And let's talk Jets.
Content. Yeah, okay. If you want to down the conversation, we'll give context afterwards when we're actually in the waiting room. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. And obviously tomorrow is the new podcast episode. Cheers, everybody. See you later.
See ya.
Good night.
And